Well, let's get some things adjusted here. Hey, good to see you. Glad that you are with me today. And this is Brad Zockel, and I want to thank you for joining me. Let me get everything set up here because we're going to be here for a while. I want to tell you a lot of exciting things going on in our ministry. And the one thing that I wanted to share with you is right now, as I'm getting everything together, is that we have now access where you can join us in giving over on our new website. We made it possible. I'm so thankful for that. And if you want to partner with us, I'm going to be on here for right now. I'm going to be actually sharing some of our, we've been talking about this, the nativity story. So I'm going to take some time here. So in a sense, oh, look, God bless you, Teresa, coming on here. Good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. So I'm going to do this. Now, Teresa, don't get intimidated here. Well, what we're going to do, this is Giving Tuesday. So I talked with our advisors, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little mini marathon here. I'm going to be on until 7 o'clock here, and we are going to really get into the nativity story, but also encourage you all. Hello, Mary and George, good to see you. We've got Bohemia's here, Sport Rider, good to see you. I'm really glad that you're here. And hey, Doug, we're going to be talking about this. First of all, I want you to know, if you wish to right now, let me just share some things. I'm going to be spending the next couple of hours. We're going to walk on through the nativity story. I'm going to give you just a real avalanche of these things. Take your notes, get out your Bible encyclopedia. But on there, I'm also going to remind you, can you tell some folks that I'm on here? Owasso, good to see you. And also, I'm going to ask, would you consider giving through our website? I am so excited to tell you this, okay? Listen to this. We got the access through the 501c3. The IRS said, yes, we agree you needed to step up and your 501c3 has been approved, which means your giving as before with Zulon now through the Heaven Tour is now tax deductible. Any gifts you give, you will receive it. And plus, today, we have finished, our wonderful webmaster finished. You can go into our site and partner with us, and you can give online. Safe, secure giving. It is absolutely accessible, easy, and it's all on there. And if you do, and then I'll be able to see you partnering with us. Whatever gift you want to give, this is Giving Tuesday, would you consider? Because I've got some wonderful plans to share with you about 2024. We're going to do this. So I'm going to be on here until 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And so I won't rush like we usually do. And then every once in a while, I'll take some questions as we go through our study. Miss Fern, good to see you. George, a carload listening. Wonderful. Well, listen, to the Gibsons, I just really appreciate your support, your encouragement, and your good example, too. Thank you for being here. Sheldon, oh, you head on out to work, and you can watch this later on. This will be archived as well. Karen is calling in from Southwest Florida. Great to see you here. Let me see. And then Louis is telling us no more leukemia. Thank the Lord. I just am so happy for that. You've been fighting that for a year. Louis, thank you so much for sharing it. We thank the Lord for that. Good evening, Logs. And then George, oh, I really appreciate you. There's the Bowmans. Miss Carol, I'm praying for you. We're all praying for you. And please let us know if there's anything that we can pray further for you as well. And we've got John Foltz here from the Swamp State. Now, let me share some things with you. This is Giving Tuesday. If you go to our site, theheaventour.com, theheaventour.com. Even right now as I'm talking, you will go on there and you go over to the left-hand side of the website. You will see some, I think they're horizontal lines. You'll see 3 lines, okay? Whether they're vertical or horizontal, I can't remember. I think they're horizontal. Click on there and it'll drop down and say partner. If you'd like to partner with us, okay, as I'm traveling, partner. And if you will go on here and you will partner here, what I'm trying to do today is have a mini marathon until 7, along with our teaching. And I've got my computer here and seeing how much we can raise. And let me tell you what we're trying to raise money for. I have a map here, and I'm going to start doing circuits. And there are some people said, we would love you to come to our church. We just can't afford any speaker's fees, any traveling, and I've never intended to charge a speaker's fee. This has really thrown a lot of Christian leaders. You mean you're saying you're going to places and you're saying you're not going to charge anything? And that's absolutely true, and I haven't. If people want to give and they want to pass the hat, that's the way it's always been. I look toward people that's saying, hey, look, you're going down the road. Here's some money to cover gas and things like that. So the small church, let me give you an idea. The Appalachian region, when I went and I spoke at the conference, I think the average church there, their attendance was about 11. Okay, at the various churches. And one young man came over and he says, I'm a brand new pastor. I'm very scared. I mean, I'm not sure what to do. I just need help. And I'm going to help him. But all of them are bivocational. They're all working jobs. I'm not going to walk in and say, look, here's what's going to be. Or I got a plane flight in, come pick me up, put me in the best hotel. Listen, I want to go in and have them put their money in toward their pastor and their building and things like that. Those of us that are more fortunate, we can help out these little churches that are just all through. I want to head out to the West Coast this time. Small church out there in one community, and they just can't afford this. And one year they wanted me out there, and they just couldn't afford it. And at that time, I was not able to afford to go out there, and so I missed a year, and I'm heartbroken about that. But I want to be able to travel. The car, I just took it in for an oil change. It's got 230,000 miles on it. All of my traveling is going to be by car. If I go out to the West Coast, I'm actually going to take a circuit and go church to church all the way through. Look, Ohio to Indiana to Illinois, moving Wisconsin, Minnesota, the Dakotas, over to Montana, Idaho. If I got to swing down through Washington, Oregon, California, come back through Arizona, New Mexico, I'll do it. Now, I already have initial talks with churches I've been with the last time. Alabama, as the Lord would allow, I'm going back to both sides of Alabama, Mississippi as well, Texas as well. Maryland had said, it's not if, it's just when. Brad, we want you here. It's a brand new church I've never been to before. The churches in Pennsylvania, please come on back, right? And one man, are you ready for this? One pastor, he gets like $100 a month. That's it paid. Now, how am I supposed to say, well, there's a speaker. I'm not going to do it. And so what I want you to consider in giving. We are a 501c3. It is tax deductible. If you are able to give and you are able to go on here and give, and then you will receive a receipt. We have it set up that would happen, and you are going to be able to receive that. And you can actually do that right now if you would like to be able to give right now. And then what I'll do is I'll see the giving coming through, and I won't say the amount, but I'm just let you know you are now a partner. We have William Mayhew, who has given today, and I appreciate so much William Mayhew and his part of our ministry as well on here. And I'll be able to see as you give and then call you in as a partner as we're going through our time today. So here's what's going to happen. What I need right now is I'm needing to raise support for our first circuit. I'm splitting 2024 into 4 circuits, 4 quarters. My first one, I'm heading up. I'm going up through Virginia, Appalachian area, and then working my way through Delaware, Maryland, and across Pennsylvania. And if I can extend into Ohio and even into Indiana, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make a wide swing and start contacting churches and letting them know, letting these little churches know, you don't have to worry about expenses. But what I need is, just help. $5 would help put extra gas in the tank. If I have to sleep in a truck stop, I have no problem doing it. I've done it before this past year. Okay, I'm not embellishing. In some places, I wasn't able to make a hotel. Okay, but if I'm able to get to a hotel, there's going to be an expense, and then I could use your help on that. Giving out materials, possibly that I could hand out some different books. There's one lady at one church. She says, I know she doesn't have much. She's a widow. And I would want to buy one of your books. I said, I'm going to send you one. We're going to pay for it. I want to give that to you. And then you can help me with that, because there are some places I just want to give our heaven books to them, along with Bibles as well. And I'm going to try to work with the Gideons, and I can be able to carry Bibles for them to different places. But I'm going to need your help on that too. So if you're able to go in, once again, it's theheaventour.com, theheaventour.com. And then when you go there, if you will go in, and then you can use your debit or your credit card in there, go to theheaventour.com, go to the left-hand side, click on those lines there. It'll say partner. And then you'll see in there, you can designate what you want to give, and then you can go over there, and it has all the information. Our webmaster has done a wonderful job putting that on there, and then you can give, and right now you'll even receive that credit, that receipt back there. We are 501c3. You will receive tax-deductible gift on there. And so I wanted to let you know that it's over here, and then as the different people are able to partner with us, then I'm going to then announce, and here we go. And God bless you. And here is one of our first partners, Fern, our dear friend, the 865 picker. Miss Fern, thank you so much for partnering with us in this. This means a lot. God bless you, and I do appreciate that. And I'm going to be putting you in to our newsletter, letting you know as I travel on this first circuit what's going on. Thank you so much. All right, so I want to just encourage you if you're able to go in and give, but let me share some things with you right now. Let's go through a Bible study, and I'll continue to go in and out of Bible study, and then if you have some questions, and Miss Teresa is a wonderful moderator helping out here, get a hold of your coffee, get a hold of your hot tea, and we're going to be here. You can come in and out if you want to go take a break and everything. I'm going to stay on until 7 o'clock here and just encourage people. Would you please tell others if they can come on here? Well, thank you, Fern. I appreciate that so very much. I give the credit to our webmaster making things user-friendly. Thank you so much. And so let's start with this. You want to take some, let's make it a Bible study. And I had somebody here, and I just did a response, even before we go to our Bible study on the Advent calendar on the Nativity story. But I want to share this with you because this is very, very important. Somebody had come on, and I'm not sure in the context, so I kind of made a wide answer to it, and I posted it over on TikTok. And somebody said, nowhere in the Bible does it say God is all forgiving. So I want to be careful, be circumspect about this, what we're talking about. And I said this, let's go to both sides because I don't know the context in which you're making this claim. If you are saying that God forgives everybody no matter what, even the unrepentant, even those that want nothing to do with him, then I will agree with you if you're saying that's not what God does. He's not all forgiving in that way. I agree with you. Our God is a God of justice. He does not, he has no patience with the rebellious who say, I will do what I want to do. His wrath is building, as a matter of fact, as you know, in our studies. We have talked about this in the book of Revelation. This is the book of Revelation. God's judgment coming down on those who are rebellious, who are unrepentant. Now you will see through the punishments, many will change their mind. They will come to there. But God says, this is not a broad sweep. You see, our God is not a celestial Santa Claus in which he says, well, I know, kids will be kids. Oh, you're causing trouble. And I know that there's a pornography thing down there. There's lying and you're causing trouble and you're cheating on your spouse. But look, haven't we all had problems? And so you come on into heaven and forget about this sin. What is that? We don't have a God like that. We don't have a God like that. The very nature that there is something called sin that has a definition tells us that there is a God who is saying, I'm a righteous God and I'm going to do right. Now, if the person was posting on there saying, God does not forgive, there are some people that have crossed the line and no matter how repentant they are, they can't be forgiven. Well, then I have a problem with that because the Bible has a problem with that claim. Now, I want you to write this down. We've talked about this. When people are coming to the Lord and saying, I am a sinner, as I did at the age of 17, look, I know I have sins. I know that this is too far for me to work out on my own. Lord, I come to you in mercy and calling for your mercy on me, and I need your grace, and I am turning away. Luke 15, the prodigal son gives us a great example. I am not worthy of anything. I just want to be on your property. I just want to be in your home. I will eat what the farm animals are eating. I am not worthy to be called your son. And the father says, come on in here. We're going to celebrate. All right? Think of this. First of all, Psalm 103 and verse 12. To the repentant sinner, God says, I will separate your sins from you as far as the east is from the west. The cry of joy to the Lord in Isaiah 38 and verse 17. Lord, you take my sins and you throw them behind your back. Isn't that amazing? Matthew 18, here's Peter, and he's saying, look, how long do you forgive? I mean, how long am I supposed to forgive? Jesus gives him the godly answer. Jesus answered in what we call a hyperbole, a gross exaggeration, so you get the idea. Because Peter says 7, and Jesus says 70 times 7. Now, Jesus is obviously not saying 490 times, and at 491, let him have it. No, this is used in an exaggeration. You always forgive the repentant. When someone comes to you and needs repentance, and this is what, or needs forgiveness, in the repentant attitude, that's exactly what you're going to do. Forgive them. Why can Jesus say this? Because this is what he's done. On the cross, those rebelling, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And in that, God is now showing this. Romans 5:8. God shows his love for us in that while we were sinners, Christ died for us. I like this in Daniel chapter 9 and verse 9. The Lord our God is merciful and forgiving, even when we have rebelled against him. Merciful and forgiving. Indeed, he is a forgiving God. I like this one too. Don't forget to write this one down. Psalm 86 and verse 5. Psalm 86 and verse 5. God is good and forgiving, abundant in steadfast love to us when we call upon him. Psalm 86:5 is telling us we do have a forgiving God. If we're coming to him seeking forgiveness, we are asking for forgiveness. We are repenting from our ways. Oh, indeed, he is forgiving. I mean, think about it. What does it say? Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 12. It's repeated in Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 17. I'll remember their sins no more. I'll remember their sins no more. Think about it as he's bringing in. Is this a forgiving God? Absolutely. Does he forgive anybody? If they come in repentance, yes, no matter how bad it's been. Think of the sins of Paul, sending people to their death, injuring people, and God forgave him when Paul became repentant and wanted to follow through Christ. Think about David, the rebellious one, sending a man to his death, adultery, all of these things, and God forgave him as David came in repentance to follow him. So we see this. This is a wonderful, wonderful promise that we have here of a forgiving God. So I want to thank you for these questions that we have. I love this. Isaiah 43 and verse 25. Even I am he that blots out your sins for my own sake. I do it because I want to do it. And I remember your sins no more. So that was the one thing that I wanted to start off our marathon time here, reminding you, if you're just joining right now, we're having a time where I am trying to see if we can't raise money for me to do my first circuit. I'll do 4 circuits next year. I hope to come by and see your church. For example, I wanted to go see, if you remember, we have a number of churches, like one over in Kentucky. We were going over, I'm just trying to think of what she has. She's over in Mount Washington, Kentucky, and her name has just escaped me. It'll come back to me in just a little bit. And I wanted to go over and visit our 80-year-old friend who received a mug. She's been so wonderful with us, and I wasn't able to make it. We just did not have the money to be able to go over to her church and make it. So I'm planning on, right now, on making a circuit. The first circuit, I'll move up and I'll move through the Northeast. The second one, I'm laying it out. The 4 circuits will take me around the 4 sections of the country, breaking them down. Northeast, Northwest, Southeast, Southwest. And I'd like to do that this next year. If there are exceptions, somebody says, well, you can only, I'll jump in and then change the circuit there. But what I want to do is have a planning circuit. So the little churches out in the Midwest that can't afford a speaker to come, I'll be at their doorstep because of your help. For the Appalachian churches, for the churches out on the reservations that can't afford anything, for the ones over in the rural areas, or when I was down in Texas, to the country churches, the cowboy country churches down there, that I can go and I can be reached with that. Oh, goodness, God bless you. Here's our latest givers right now. John Fultz, God bless you. Oh, what a wonderful thing. partnering with us on this. John, God bless you. We also have Louis Wasso. Thank you so much for your giving here over on the heaventour.com site, and your giving. And this means so much, my friends. And you will be part of our partnership. We'll be keeping you in touch. I have a record here to keep letting you know where I am and what I'm doing. Even now, the different projects that I'm working on, even while I'm here during the holiday season, I'll keep you in touch on that as well. Lindsay Kuzmitsky, Lindsay Kuzmitsky, this means so much to me, my friend. Lindsay, thank you. Thank you for your giving and your partnership in the Heaven Tour. Means so much. George, God bless you. How'd you do this? You got a carload of people and you gave, oh, wow, you're really something else too. Good partner, Gibson family, very, very special family to our ministry here. Thank you so much. We've got Miss Fern here and Mr. William also. And so we've had a wonderful start to this. This means so much. I really, really appreciate this in your giving here. And I'll tell you once again, what we'll do, Miss Karen, to get my newsletter, write me at the brad@theheaventour.org, brad@theheaventour.org, and I'll pass it over to Miss Andrea, who is the editor of our newsletter, and I will get that right there to her. We're going to be getting the first newsletter out here, in just about a handful of days here. I won't be able to do it some tonight, but I've been working on it. We've actually put some of it together throughout the day here. And so as I am doing that, you come on in and you get on that newsletter, and I'll let you know where we're going to. This, George, thank you. It really means a lot. This really blesses my heart, friends, because this money is going to help those little churches. What I want to do, excuse me, I've really had a problem today. The sickness has really been messing with my digestive system, so I almost hiccuped right on the air here. But during this the time, I so very much want to be able to share with you, let you see these little churches that I'm at. If I can tell you, when I was over in outside of Hazard, Kentucky, this wonderful little church, but we went back so far in the middle of nowhere to go to this church. And during the flooding, the Kentucky flooding that had gone over, their church, they had to abandon their church. They had a bridge you have to go across. The stream flooded and there was just damage to the building. And the church over in, I was over in Virginia, in Pound, Virginia. And the water came right up and went across the floor there in this little church. And they didn't give up, but you know something? It was just such a blessing to come to them and to be with them and to serve them. And I'm working with them right now in helping them start an institute. I don't want to give too much away, but the little churches in the Appalachian area, they want to start a Bible Institute, and I want to be part of that in helping them out as well. And I just want to be able to do that. And anything that you do in here, you can help us out. This means so very, very much. I'm very humbled by this, and I want you to know that you're part of this as well. So thank you so very much on this. Now, what I'd like to do is I'm going to open up the floor here for questions. I'm going to give you another part of our study in the Advent calendar, walking down into Christmas time, and give you a head start as we go through here. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a review, and then we're going to look into some new things here. And if you want to take some things down, if you have a Christmas Advent study, you have a Bible study with your dear ones, your family, your Bible study, men's Bible study, ladies' Bible study, your church, your youth group, and you're saying, hey, I'd like to share some things. Plagiarize everything I give you. I don't care if you don't have to give me any attribution. God doesn't have a copyright in his word. Take this stuff and, later on when this is archived, take the notes, and you don't have to say, hey, look, there's some old guy, that's in a barn told us all about this early. The people are like, who's that? But you're saying, here's what the word of God says, and here's the background on that, okay? All right, so the first thing is we're looking through the Christmas countdown. What's a nativity? We've talked about this. Well, the word nativity means your birth story, all right? Mine is May 29th, 1959, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Bellevue Hospital, born to Catherine Rose Zockel and Glenn Albert Zockel, 7:30 in the morning approximately. Wonderful weather, being the fact that it's the end of May, the sports teams in town enjoying baseball season and such. Well, that's my nativity. It's a general idea of what happened the day I was born. You have one too. You might know some different things about this. Our son was born in the midst of, February 2nd, born in the midst of a raging snowstorm in Knoxville, Tennessee at Children's Hospital. And that's his nativity, okay? But nativity is so special when we talk about the birth of Christ that the Christian community really has a corner on the word nativity, the nativity. But everybody has a nativity. This nativity that we see, where do you find it in the Bible? Well, for that matter, where do you find the life of Jesus in the Bible? Some people will call them the Gospels, which means the good news, and rightfully so. But if you want to say this, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are the 4 biographical books about Jesus. It tells about his life. You find his specific life of God on earth with man in that presentation for the ministry, born to die. You're going to find it in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. His ministry will culminate in him going to the cross, such as Matthew 27 and 28, John 19, 20 and 21, Mark 15 and 16, and as you see, Luke chapter 23 and 24. You see that, and his resurrection, victory over death. You'll see them there. But the birth story is found in 2 of the 4 Gospels. You'll find them specifically in Matthew and Luke, and you will find them even more specifically in Matthew chapter 1 and 2 and Luke chapter 1 and 2. You're going to find them there. Let me take a pause and take a look here, and we're going to see, because as you comment, then I want to be able to help, and I can take a break here and there. Louis asking for prayer. Someone hit and totaled his car right before Thanksgiving. Let's pray for him and keep that. You know something? You and I have had these difficult times whenever there's been a car wreck and things like that. And it's always difficult. An injury, maybe the insurance doesn't handle it the way. Just keep Louis in prayer. And Louis, we're going to pray for you, and just pray also that God's peace reigns in you as well. Okay? We will definitely pray for you as that. Now, when we talk about this, you receive different aspects of the scriptures here. Very, very powerful. The first thing is you want to know, does Jesus qualify? Is he of the line of David? Is he of the seed of Abraham? Is he Jewish? Okay. Is he from the tribe of Judah? That's necessary. Genesis 49 and verse 10 says that that's part of the prophecy. Got to be from the line of David. We see that. Well, you know, hey, how do we know? Well, you have 2 family trees. One is in Matthew chapter 1, the other is in Luke chapter 3. And they're going to answer this question because we don't want to be following someone who doesn't meet the qualifications. They're known as prophecies. In the bloodline, everything else can be secondary if it doesn't make the bloodline. So what we have here is we have the need to look at the background, the historical, the genealogical background of the Lord. And so Jesus, is he of this line? Okay, so you see in Matthew, you're going to see 42 names, and they're in blocks of 14. Luke has 77 names. Why do you have a difference? Oh, it's very easy. Let me kind of walk you through this, all right? In Matthew's gospel, when we see in Matthew chapter 1, the family line that's going to lead to the birth of Christ, the family line, very important. The Jewish people are saying where everybody knew from what line, from what tribe they came from. And as I told you, in the time that Jesus was born, Rabbi Hillel could tell you by his own genealogical line, he came from the tribe, from the line of David. Very proud of it, and rightfully so. But the records were very exacting. Well, what happened to them? Did it happen today? No. During the attack by Israel foolishly against Rome in 70 AD, Rome made the promise and they carried through. If you ever try to be treasonous against us, we'll take your innocent ones. We'll kill them. We'll knock down all your buildings, all your places of worship, your residential areas. We will tear up your fields of crops. We will sow salt on them so it'll be years before you can ever use them again. We will destroy everything, and most of all, we will tear your libraries to the pieces. We will get rid of every record of your history so no one will ever know your civilization was ever alive. What a horrifying thing, and that's exactly what they did. They went through over 900 villages coming on down, tearing them, or just ripping them to shred, razing, R-A-Z, razing them to the ground, killing innocent ones, families and such. People are on the run. The only reason we have any records from those days is the Essenian monks down in the Dead Sea area, known as the Qumran section. They hid in what we know now, at least 11 caves. They hid in these sealed jars, scrolls in which we have every book of the Old Testament, up to with the exception, I think, of Esther, all of them, and they are in pristine condition as far as the lettering. We can know what is being said in there. Oh, they're brittle, but they have been lovingly and laboriously taken and brought out so we can read those on there. But those family trees, they're gone. They're gone. So nobody knows now. But back then, oh yeah, you knew what your family tree was. So the minute Jesus was presenting himself as Messiah, all of the scribes ran to the records. Is he from the tribe of Judah? And you will notice there's never been an accusation against Jesus in any of the biographical books of his that he disqualified because of the genealogical lines. He was from the proper tribe. He was from the proper lineage. Matthew knows, being a Jew, he knows that the Jewish faithful will be wanting to know. So he starts off and basically says, friends, let's just get this out of the way. And so that's why the family tree is the very first thing there. He presents, I present to you Jesus, King of the Jews. Fellow Jews, here he is, the long-awaited Messiah. Now, the Jewish way of memory of the lines was, you can have, you can go through your family line, leave out unimportant ones. That's why there's less people in here, the 42. It's okay. You got a horse thief somewhere in there, when everybody turns a blind eye to that. You have an embezzler, nobody knew it was in there. You know, you can do that. But even more so, you will see, first of all, the other ones are eliminated because the family tree in Matthew starts with Abraham, because he's the founder of the Jewish faith. Comes through Abraham, comes up through David, and makes the presentation, as you see, going on through, all the way up the line and going through. And this line came through Solomon. This came through Solomon, David's first son. Mary's line will come through Nathan, David's third son. But through here, Solomon goes all the way up, and it comes to Joseph. Joseph is a descendant of David. And the inheritance to any throne, any royalty, any monarchy is going to come through the father's line. So the father must be of the proper bloodline, and Joseph was. Now, he's not Jesus' biological father. He's his legal father. It works. Never a question in the Jewish faith and the Jewish culture that Joseph wouldn't, because he's not biologically his father. The adoption works. That works. But Jesus has to be of the bloodline. David's bloodline will sit on the throne. Well, that comes through Mary. Mary's line goes through Nathan, the third son, and that he qualifies through that. And so you see the family tree is giving you the first qualifications on that as we move on through this story. Well, let me go down here. Well, bless your heart. We've got some more members of our Heaven Tour. And if I can call you all Heaven Tour guides, helping us as we're going through the circuit. I'm planning on the first circuit starting in late January, and I'm going to move out on the first circuit, heading up through Maryland and then moving over through Pennsylvania, coming through Ohio if at all possible, and pushing into Indiana and swinging on down through Appalachian regions as well. And you're helping me with that. Doug Kleckner, dear friend, came up here. Doug, as you know, many of us, he is recovering from back surgery, severe. Doug came up and met me when I was speaking in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, brought me a shoe fly pie, and buddy, was that some good stuff here. But Doug was suffering. He was coming up on a cane, just really hurting on his back. And so our dear friend Doug is giving, and Doug, this means so much. We are a 501c3 corporation, and so you receive a tax deductible gift in your receipt. Will show that. Jessica Gibson, thank you. Miss Jessica, thank you so much for your giving. This really, really means a lot. This, everything that is given, whether it would give one tank or 1 gallon of gas, one night at a hotel, one meal as I'm traveling, or maybe I'm able to make a purchase for one of our Heaven books to give to a pastor or to give to somebody there. Anything is going to be helping. And I will let you know in the newsletter as we're doing that. So our newest list here, the list is growing of our partners in the Heaven Tour. And that's the reason I'm on till 7 tonight. And if you know of somebody else and say, hey, help the old guy get on the road here, help out these different churches. When I've been going to the different churches, as I said, there have been some churches that I have, and there are about 7 people, 12 people, 15 people. Just recently I was at a church, and I don't think that there were quite 20 in there, and absolutely loved being with them. Wonderful time. And so you're helping me as I'm going to help these grassroots churches that are in their communities and doing the best they can too. So that means so very, very much. Well, let me do this as we're continuing on through there. Let me go and share some new things with you, okay? And then, thank you so much, Louie. As I'm traveling, I had a couple close calls. I did have an accident. It was a small fender bender. I was so tired one time. I think I was coming back from Texas or Oklahoma, and I was pushing it. And I got in, and I actually fell asleep at a truck stop. And when I backed up into a post. I backed up into a sign that was on a post. And I probably showed you the damage to the car on there. But thank the Lord, that was in a stationary place. I was doing like 2 miles an hour, and so nothing, I had no injury on it. But I want to thank you for your care. And so I'm trying to be more careful as I travel and not push it. But I'll be honest with you, we just haven't had any money for hotels. And so I've been trying to going through and meeting. And a lot of times somebody would say, well, look, do you want to stay at our house? Yeah, I'll be glad to stay at your house, man. That's fine. Somebody says, well, maybe you don't want to stay at our house. Look, I'm not a prima donna. I'll be glad to stay there. It's wonderful on there. Some of the blessed relationships that I've had with wonderful couples and staying there and having dinner with them and then staying up late talking about heaven was just a wonderful, wonderful time. And I don't care. I don't care. I'd sleep on the floor. It doesn't bother me at all. Wonderful. Oh, let me see. Well, yes, Karen, we've got you. We're going to get you on that newsletter. You can be a tour guide. You're helping me here, and you're all just taking me right down the road. That really means a lot. All right, let me get to the first one. I'm going to move on through here, and let me start with this. Did you ever hear of this fellow called Caesar Augustus? Caesar Augustus. All the world's going to be taxed because of Caesar Augustus. What's this about? Well, let's talk about him as we talk about our Christmas countdown in the Christmas story. If you're pronouncing his name in the Koine Greek, it's Kaiser Augustus. Kaiser Augustus. Caesar Augustus. This one here, he was the first emperor in Rome. He was the first one to take total control, even above the other ones. Julius was his uncle. The story goes that I think that when his real name's Octavian, okay? I'll tell you the reason for the other names, but his real name was Octavian. And Julius Caesar realizes that he needs to have somebody that he can trust to take over after he moves from this life. And he's going through his family, and for whatever reason, he sees Octavian in a gathering and observes him and finds out this guy's got the goods to be a good emperor. So what he does is he makes a contact to Octavian's dad, makes it worth his while and says, I'm going to adopt him and I'm going to get him. I'm going to set him up to be the next leader. And it does work. It really does work here. Octavian then takes over. He leads Rome into this time of peace. Have you ever read this when you were in high school and you read about the Pax Romana? Well, that's because of Caesar Augustus, Kaiser Augustus. This time of peace in which there are not going to be any uprisings, it's going to last for 2 centuries. He's the one that initiated it. It got things set up that way too. This was known, Pax Romana means the time, peace of Rome, okay? Rome, the time of peace in Rome, in here. The term Caesar means leader. In Russian it's Tsar. In Germany it's Kaiser. And things. Okay, well that means you're the leader. Now he's demanding full leadership, and the Senate's not going to have any pull on him. He is a dictatorial reign. His is a dictatorial reign, and in this he then calls himself Augustus, the August one. It's a very prideful term, But when you see that, that's not his last name. It's a title he gave to himself. I am the august one, the leader. All right, so what he does is he's working on some other projects, and he's raising the taxes needed for him to continue on in the empire. So he's going to demand a tax. Well, how do you know that people aren't going to escape it? Well, we've got census, and the record keeping's pretty exacting, especially as Rome is the dominant one over them. So what you're going to have to do is go back to your hometown of your birth, which means if this was something similar to nowadays, I would have to go and take my whole family here if my kids were still at home, and I'd have to go back up to Pittsburgh. And in those days, people aren't so transient as they are now. We move about so much. Your family's still there. I'd have to go back to my birth area in the Pittsburgh area and then register because they've got me registered. If I don't show up, or the records, they're going to come for me. Israel's not exactly a huge place, and you really can't run for too long. The dominance of Rome is there. So everybody's going to go back to their area and face this taxation, and that's what's going to happen. This is all led by Caesar Augustus, Kaiser Augustus. Now, during this time, we back up and we have the visitation not only from the Romans saying you are going to pay the taxes, but we have this little peasant girl. Her name is Mary, Maria, okay, in the Greek. Mary has a visitation from one known as Gabriel in the Greek. Gabriel, you call him Gabriel. He's not a human. He comes in human form so that she is not overwhelmed. But he's going to talk with her, and he's going to make the announcement that you are the one, through all these centuries and all these little virgin girls who were told by the parents, you might be the one, you may be the one. Well, Mary, you are the one. God has chosen you. This is found in Luke chapter 1. He has already made the announcement earlier in the chapter to Zacharias and his wife Elizabeth that your child, and Zacharias is like, look, we're old. How's this going to happen? Well, you're going to be mute because of your unfaithfulness, but listen to me. Now that you can't talk, why don't you listen? You're going to call him John. And he gives the details about John. But John's going to be the forerunner of Christ. He's going to be the announcer of Christ. Now, let me tell you something that's quite interesting. In the time that Jesus is walking the earth, the time of John the Baptist, the time of Zacharias and Elizabeth, Mary, Joseph, okay? When you had a wedding, the day of the wedding, the groom would leave his house and walk across the village to the girl's house. Now, when he does, part of the ceremony, because it's not like everybody has all these distractions, this is a big thing. During this time, the groom is going to go, and then what you would call the equivalent of the best men, they're going to start walking with him. Everybody gathers together, and the crowd gets bigger and bigger. Now, while they're going, somebody goes over and tucks a few coins into the groom's hand, help you out, in your initial stages of your new family, or somebody hands, him some monetary value, or maybe a gift. Here's a housewarming gift. Now, he goes on down there, and he goes, it's a very circuitous travel. A lot of people, all excited and such, and they're all there. They're seeing this, and the crowd gets bigger and bigger. Well, now he goes over to the house when he gets there, and then the crowd's very big, and then he picks up the bride, and then he takes her with him. And then they are going to then march over to the town square, wherever the parents have rented a place for the big celebration goes on. And some of these wedding, afterward, all the celebration after the wedding is going to be, my goodness, some of them are a week long. They're at least a handful of days. There's never just a couple hours. We think it's a lot when we have a reception that goes in like 3 or 4 hours into midnight, and then we're like, well, we're exhausted. These go for days. People are there, and they're sleeping at relatives' homes and coming back and celebrating and wonderful. And John 2 gives you an idea of that, and Jesus going to the wedding feast and all. But before that, ahead of time, there is somebody that goes ahead of the group, and he is going to be basically like the village idiot in appearance, or a court jester in his instruction. He's going to run about a block ahead, and to do anything to get people's attention, and yelling behind me, the wedding's coming, the wedding's coming, the wedding's coming. This is a forerunner. This happens. Well, you go way back into the book of Esther, and you're going to see something along that line when the king says to Haman, what would you do for somebody that needs to be honored? Well, I would send somebody out ahead to play the fool to get the attention to go back. Remember that story? Well, that's the same thing here in this. In the New Testament era, somebody runs on ahead, plays the fool, and everybody's like, why is that guy acting so weird? Okay, he's saying, hey, look, now that I've got your attention, the groom and the bride are coming, all right? The forerunner has David does this before the ark. Remember that? He dances very, very, very agitated and energetic. He's dancing before the Lord. He's playing the fool. That's why his wife had said, Michael had also said to him, well, didn't you play the fool? And David says, I'll be glad to before the Lord, because it's not me, it's the ark coming out. The presence of God is with us. And so you have this one going, a forerunner. That's John the Baptist for Jesus. He runs ahead. He's the forerunner. He keeps saying, I'm of no account. Jesus is everything. Get the idea. The Lamb of God that takes away the sin of the world. So John is the designated forerunner, just as the fool would run ahead to announce the important thing, the parade of the wedding, or the ones of the one being honored, the one runs ahead. John's ministry is that, to run ahead, be of no account of himself. So when they're trying to say, the Pharisees say, look, we can bring you in with us. He has no hesitation in condemning them and saying, I don't need the fine things. It's the message, not the messenger, going on ahead. So John, it's been predicted in the Nativity story. This is what John will do. And then, of course, Gabriel goes and he announces to Mary about this. Now, when you look in, this is found when you go over here and you look in Luke chapter 1. Luke chapter 1 is the visitation, all right? Now, when I was over in Nazareth, they claim that they know where that Gabriel came and he talked with Mary. And to be honest with you, they haven't really taken care of that site. It's very, very doubtful that's the place. But even then, it's really, really not been kept up on there. But it's some legend that they say that's the place, and that's really irrelevant as to where it was. It's a fact that it happened. Gabriel says in verse 19, I am Gabriel who stand in the presence of God. We find this so fascinating because in Daniel chapter 9, here's Gabriel. It's the same one. All through these centuries and centuries and centuries, Gabriel hasn't aged. He's an angel, all right? He makes the prophecy. Well, Daniel chapter 8, he is actually explaining a vision of the ram and the goat. So he's actually interpreting. And then in chapter 9, as Daniel is praying for deliverance and also for mercy because of his sins and the sins of the nation, God is so touched by this, he sends Gabriel down from heaven to answer him in the midst of the prayer. Gabriel breaks every time and space continuum in going down and meeting with him. And then Gabriel says, well, I've been sent from God to answer, and I'm going to give you what we now know as the 70 weeks prophecy. This is Gabriel. It seems that his job is coming down and giving news. Michael, Gabriel's name means champion of God. Michael really means, it's a rhetorical question, who is like God? He seems to be more of the guardian angel, more of the warrior angel here. But when you see this, you see verse 11, the announcement of John the Baptist, and then verse 26, the Messiah coming. He's making these announcements here. That's Gabriel, and he plays part in that too. Well, before I go on to the next one in here, in our little mini marathon here of teaching with you, boy, I'm really appreciative you've been here. I'll be here till 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll take a breather right now. And if you have some questions, well, there's Mariette from the Netherlands. Well, good to see you, Miss Mariette. I really appreciate seeing you again. It's been a while, and I do hope things are going well. And it's an honor, my friend, for you to be here. Let me go on back and let me check right now on our partnership as we're going and we're growing here, there. And what I'm sharing with all my dear friends is this. As we are growing in our ministry, this coming year, I'm looking for partners Our website is now accessible. You can go on and give online, very secure, and you can give electronically, debit or credit card and everything. And why are we doing this? Because I'm heading out on my circuit at the end of January. I'm back out on the road. I won't take the pickup. I'm going to go in the Honda CRV, and I'm going to be on the road. I'm not going to be doing any flying. That would be a great exception if that should happen. But I want to go over to churches, and many of them that can't afford to have a speaker. And I'm asking for your help for traveling expenses, for hotel expenses if that's needed. Many times if a church offers to take care of me in somebody's home, I'll do it. I love the hospitality of a local church family that's always there. But maybe if I'm needing to get some gas or maintenance on the car, I'm going to be putting some serious miles in the car. I'm going to be doing 4 circuits next year. The first one, I'm aiming to go up through the Appalachian region, then through Delaware, Maryland, and come across Pennsylvania, move on straight heading Midwest, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, push as far as I can before I drop back down and come through here. Then later on, one of my circuits will be Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, Mississippi as well. And so I'm needing your help on that, okay? These are big projects, along with my desire. My aim was to have 7 books. So many things happen. I only was able to publish 2 books this year. During this holiday season, I'd like to get the 3rd book out and then have that going. And there's an expense on getting editors and things like that together too. So all of these things. Mary, Miss Mary, thank you for coming aboard, being our next tour guide. In the Heaven Tour, all of our friends, Doug and Jessica, John, Louie, Lindsay, George, Fern, William, and now Mary are joining, and I just really, really appreciate you helping out. Okay, so let's do this. As we're gathering people helping us on this first circuit next year on the Heaven Tour, then let's take a breather here before I go back into, and I'll get some other things up here on our next talk on the Nativity story, but I'll take some questions here, okay? And if I can help you at all, I want to do so. Let me go over here and then pull up another one of my notes here, if I can. Okay, and so Dennis is asking, how were people of the Old Testament saved? This is a great question, and this one bothered me. When I was younger, like, what? And then somebody actually said, well, they don't go to heaven. If you're in the Old Testament, y'all went to hell. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really make any sense. You're saying David, Abraham, Moses, seriously? It was a very irresponsible answer. So now, here's the thing. How did these people, if Jesus didn't go to the cross and you have to believe in Jesus, well, how did they go to heaven? Well, it's answered very clearly in Hebrews chapter 11, and rightfully so. As a matter of fact, you see the prophecies of what they were looking for in Isaiah 65 and 66. But if you want to get a quick look at what happens, Hebrews chapter 11, what about the Old Testament saints? It even gives you a list of them that you'll find in heaven. And it says this, Abraham believed God, and this faith was counted as righteousness. The best way I can tell you, Dennis, is this. The easiest way that I can give it in a Zochal interpretation is this. We have faith on what has happened. They had faith on what would happen. We look back in faith to the cross. They looked forward in faith to the deliverance of the Messiah, and eventually which would be the cross. They looked forward in faith. We look back in faith. They found it through the Messiah to come. We found it in the Messiah that has come. They found it in the victory that would come through the Messiah. We look back in faith on the victory that the Messiah has assured us. And yes, and so go to Hebrews chapter 11, and you will see a list. Adam, Moses, Joshua, Rahab, Sarah, Abraham. You're going to see the list of examples there in which we can follow in their faith and how they lived their faith. Great question. All right. Miss Shannon is asking, can we give a monthly donation? Well, absolutely, Shannon. You can set it up. If you go to the website, I was telling you, and Shannon is our West Coast friend. And if this is possible, then part of your giving is I'm going out to the West Coast this next year. Through one of the 4 circuits I'm going to do, I'm aiming for the West Coast. And by God's grace, I'm going to get out there, and I'm going to be reaching those there in many of the churches that can't afford, or assemblies or Bible studies that can't afford for me to fly out there or go. We're going to do that. So Shannon is one of our West Coast friends here. And yes, if you go to the site, right now, Shannon, I was announcing to people on this very special Giving Tuesday that we have the site is accessible for you now to give online. It just happened about 5 hours ago. It clicked open and you are able to give. And if you go into theheaventour.com, C-O-M, theheaventour.com, and if you will go into there and then you will go over to the lines you will see, I think they're horizontal lines over there, and then you will punch on those and it'll drop down to partner. And if you click on there, then it gives you the access. And through there, you can designate how much you want to give, if you want to give it monthly, things like that. It's all on there. And as Fern had said, one of our partners here, Fern has said, it's very user-friendly. If you go on there, you can do that, all right? And so, yes, you can. The website, once again, is theheaventour.com, theheaventour.com. And we're picking up our partners right now, our tour guides for the Heaven Tour, helping us out right now. And listen, I'm also looking for tour guides. If you say this, let me give you an idea. Miss Karen and Mr. J, they said, would you come down to Savannah area? I want you to come to our church. And they were a tour guide and they set up everything. And I was there for a wonderful weekend. This is Ron Rosales up in Easton, Maryland. Would you come on up here for 2 years? He's been my tour guide there and taken us in. They've rented out a place for the conglomerate of churches to meet, for me to have a weekend on the Heaven Tour with them 2 years in a row. And there is it's just wonderful, wonderful times. Those are also tour guides. So there's other ways of working with us too, okay, on that. So let me see. Oh, Miss Angela, oh, you asked the right question here, because that's the next part of our study. How did the wise men know the star? Was there a prophecy? Let's go into that, and we're going to talk about that in just a second here. Let me go ahead and pull that up as I'm going on through here. Looking in here under my stuff here, I want to make sure that I come up to the right ones here. Hang on a second here, and as I get going. All right, here we move over, and let me start. I'm going to go over to some of my different PowerPoints and then talk with you about this. Let me see. And then we've got Jonathan here, Bronny. Well, let me take a look here first of all and see if we have some other friends that have joined us up. We've got our partners here, our tour guides, Mary and Doug. Welcome aboard. Jessica, thank you for coming over here. Karen Spearman is another one of our wonderful friends who's been on here and has been a regular attender to our live stream in the morning time. Karen, welcome aboard and helping us out on this circuit, on this Giving Tuesday. And as I told everybody, all of the giving, we are 501c3. You will receive a tax-deductible receipt on that. Your gifts are tax-deductible as well. So to Karen and Mary, Doug and Jessica and John, Louie and Lindsay and George and Fern and William, thank you so much for your giving. The tour guides helping us on the different circuits I'll be doing next year as well. Oh, let's go through this and let's talk some more. And then the question came up, and let me see if I have this down to share this with you on here. The wonderful, wonderful truths as we're taking a look at this. We talked about Herod earlier. We talked about the amazing truths that we saw of the Herod's background. We looked at them. Caesar Augustus we talked about. We talked about frankincense as well in there. Let me see. That's 2. I'm going through my different subjects here and then going down for references as I talk with you all and make sure that I can get you the right passages here on here. And so while I'm going and looking through these, I wanted to share with you here. Hang on a second here. Christmas 5. And we talked about the genealogy. I want to remind you, if you are looking for a Christmas gift for your friends, then don't forget the books, the Heaven Tour, and also the Heaven, The Adventure Begins, and What is Heaven All About? Those are both available on Amazon. You can have them sent down there, have them drop shipped to somebody's house that maybe you want to witness to them, you want them to know about heaven and also salvation, or maybe somebody's grieving and you want to let them know as well. Still looking here, getting out my other ones. Let me see if I can get this here. Going down here, we talked about Gabriel, looked at the Magi, Herod, okay. Still going down here, let me see. Thanks for being patient with me. I'm zipping down through here as best I can and trying to get. Okay, here we go. I think we have it here. Yeah. I'm going to start with this one. And these are from my notes from about, I'd say about 10 years ago. And I'm going to share this with you. This is where I'd like you to take some notes because this is most fascinating. And I'll go through as much as I can, okay? All right. So Angela is asking, how the wise men know according to the star, and was there some prophecy? We do have the prophecies that are coming about this one. How did the wise men know? And this is a wonderful mystery. Many of the researchers deep within the scriptures would say the Magi here may have very well, and I'll talk about that later on when I talk about Magi themselves. Matter of fact, I can share. Maybe I'd better start with that first of all and talk about the Magi themselves. When we take a look here, we are looking at these ones that are known as the wise men, okay? Now, the word actually is magos. And the first thing I want you to know as I study through this, they were not kings. Magi, it's a very, very mysterious origin in its name. The magos was a particular group, but the easiest thing I can tell you right now in our talk is that they were known for their study of the stars. They were astronomers. And they took the astronomy actually from God, and they took it very, very serious in their study. The belief is that Daniel may have actually started this Institute of Astronomy, telling them that through the very notebook known as the sky, God's notebook, you may be able to know when the Messiah, the deliverer, will come. Always be ready. If it's not within your lifetime, it's upon you to have the proper records for the next lifetime of the next astronomers as well. As I told you, the Magos, the Magi, were not just three. Okay, they weren't kings, and neither were there just three. Probably a great company. Valets, personal guards, soldiers watching over these valuable gifts of gold, for example, things along that line. And I also want you to know in Matthew 2:11 that we talked about this, that it's very, very widely known and accepted in the Bible scholarly circles. The wise men did not come on the night of Jesus' birth. I think we've talked about this a number of times as well. That when Matthew 2:11 says they came to the house, see, they didn't come to the kataluma, which is the Greek name for the inn. They came to a house. So they were still in Bethlehem, and this could be months and months later. It may be up to 2 years later. We don't know, but at least months later, that the wise men arrived there. Joseph may have been taking odd jobs there and then had enough money to rent there, and the Magi came there. Now, when they came, it could have been days, weeks, possibly months, all right? Now, the background notes that I have here are very intriguing in my studies. They're from Persia, probably had been alerted to the prophetic significance of their times by the prophecies that you find in Daniel or other Old Testament prophets. This probably intrigued them into their further studies. Jewish legends say that Daniel himself, as an official of the Persian government, founded this order of Magi, wise men. As I said, the origin of the word Magi, it runs into a very mysterious realm, and so we're just not sure. The thinking is, according to Jewish legend, then Daniel said, keep watching for the Messiah through the generations. This would happen here. Then, as I said, the whole world was looking for the Messiah here. Now, when they came to Jerusalem, remember this, they came to Jerusalem first. They didn't go straight to Bethlehem. They came down. Isn't it interesting? The shepherds, straight to Jerusalem, clear instructions. The lowly shepherds. The wise men, well, they needed help. They needed help on which direction do we go, okay? They come to Jerusalem. They assume that the leaders of the Jews would be celebrating the birth of the Messiah. We came late, but Well, where's all the festivity? Is there extra food around? Where's the bunting and the banners? And why is nobody celebrating this? You found out this was here. And who's this Herod? We talked about Herod, this mean, paranoid one who, and the area, Jerusalem, was so spiritually dead that whenever they said, well, we're looking for the king of the Jews, Herod goes, well, that's me, because I told you 40 BC, the Roman Senate, after a lot of bribery by his relatives, they said, we now designate you the official title, Herod is the king of the Jews. So he's saying to them, well, that's me. And they're kind of laughing, the Magi, you're a funny old man. The child, the king of the Jews, has been born, and we've come to do more than just observe. We've come to worship him. Well, Herod is totally thrown by this, goes to his own wise men. What are they talking about? Well, it does say in the prophecies that the child will be born in Bethlehem. It's been written this way in Micah. And they know about it, and they just don't care. Nobody cares. They're so spiritually dead. Well, he goes back, and he only sees this as a threat to the throne, not as the Savior of mankind. Well, go and find them. Go find those in charge. Find this child, and then come back and tell me so I'll know the exact direction. I can come and worship him too. Well, when they go, obviously they know something's through God's leading that this is amiss, and then they escape there. This causes Joseph also to escape with the little one over into Egypt, and we'll talk about that later on. Okay, so that's the Magi that I talked about. But I want to take it even further here when we're talking about the star, okay? So in this, we find something most fascinating here. When we go into the scriptures and we're looking at this, we see that historians would look at they're talking about those at the time. Historians will tell us that the leaders of that time would always see pretty much the fixed, through the night sky, but I'm talking about the regularity of the stars, and they would find them that respect for the stars and saying that they will guide us, and then we could see them through the patterns and such. Well, this was very high at this particular time prior to Christ's coming. I talked about this morning, that Suetonius, the greatly acclaimed Roman historian of the time, reports in, and this is another one, I gave you one this morning. This talks about Tiberius, De Vita Caesarum Tiberius. This is going to be, I believe it is, I can't really tell exactly what volume it is. But if you look into there, it says Tiberius Caesar, who was reigning at the time of Christ's birth, this is what I'm seeing, Suetonius, he was addicted to astrology. He was addicted to astrology so much that he was constantly checking on the stars, on what he should do, on where he should go, on what would influence his leadership. This is going to be Tiberius looking to the stars. And then Tacitus says this in his book 2 of the Histories. That's the source. Tacitus, also one of great history writing, says that Emperor Vespasian was so addicted to what is coming in the celestial leading of possibly what's going to happen being taught in the skies, that he kept a personal astrologer by the name of Seleucus, and that his troops were now taught to be familiar with astrological signs in the heavens. So Vespasian was also addicted to astrology here too. Now, both the ancient historians and the Bible make it clear that, we've talked about this morning, there came something called a Messiah mania at the time. That's my own term. There became such an itch to move out of where we are and have a deliverer come. Suddenly the whole world is knowing that everything, and through God's leading, they're all pointing to the land of Judea. Something's going on here. Both ancient historians and Bible make it clear the Jews of this period expected a new Jewish ruler to arise based upon Jewish prophecy, and that the stars would be the ones announcing the arrival. Isn't that amazing when you're talking about that? Tacitus says this. This is book 5 of the Histories. Tacitus, the writer, says this, and I quote, Most of the Jews firmly believed that their ancient priestly writings contained the prophecy that this was the very time when the East should grow strong and that men starting from Judea should possess the world. Now, this is from Rome. This is not within there. They are now aware that something is stirring in Judea, and there's going to be a possible game changer here, a world changer more exactly. And then Suetonius continues to write this in that same volume that I told you about before. There had spread over all the Orient an old and established belief that it was fated that at that time for men coming from Judea to rule the world. And then Suetonius continues to say this, that, and I talked about this morning, when he then discovered in the prophetic writings that continued to come out that there is going to be a Messiah, Greek term, the Christ, an anointed one, capital A, is going to come out. Vespasian felt that would topple his regime, so he attempted to exterminate the entire line of David, even helpless individuals, cripples, as long as they were a male within the Davidic line, he had them exterminated. That's how serious he took it, and that's how strong this anticipation of a world changer was coming at the time when Jesus was coming. The fullness of time, all right? Josephus, as I shared this morning, Josephus is considered the prime Roman historian at the time. He starts showing a little bit of his flavor in there. He doesn't believe this, but he writes about the history nonetheless. He has a volume called Wars. And in the 6th section of this volume, he says this: the prediction that the Messiah was coming was so prevalent and so believed by the Jews of that time, this was really the catalyst for their first Jewish war against the Romans. Quote, "But now what did most elevate the Jews in undertaking this war was an ambiguous oracle." He uses the term ambiguous. This ambiguous oracle that was also found in their sacred writings. How, quote, "About that time one from their own country should become governor of the habitable earth," unquote. Continuing his quote, "The Jews took this prediction to belong to themselves in particular, and many of the wise men were thereby deceived in their determination." In other words, he's saying, well, to me, they were deceived. But he's quoting, this is what they believed, why they would throw themselves on the battlefield against a much stronger foe. That's the understatement of the year. Against a dominant leader. We're saying as they're coming down there, Messiah, you better come and help us. You better come and deliver us. And that's what it's saying here. They are doing that. The Pharisees of Jesus' day, they were looking for the Christ. When you go to John chapter 1, verses 14 through 27, when John starts preaching, they get him to the side. Are you the Messiah? And he says openly, no, I'm not. They were looking. But then think about it. John chapter 1, move down to verse 41. Andrew finds Christ, finds Jesus, runs back to his brother Peter, who is called Simon, and he says, we found the Messiah. We found him. We've been looking for him. We found him. So the Messiah mania had gone through the commoner as well as to the upper echelons of society here. Then you go to chapter 4 as Jesus is ministering, and you find it even in Samaria, they were obsessed with the Messiah coming. Do you remember this? She says, as he's talking at the well with the Samaritan woman, and she says, I know that the Messiah is coming. We say that he'll come to Mount Gerizim. You're saying he comes in Jerusalem. But they're saying, yes, we do know the deliverer is going to come. The Messiah mania is continuing, and that's what brings it on. But the big thing that I talked about was this. 60 years prior to that situation, 63 BC approximately, the Roman Senate had become so addicted to knowing, is this one coming now? Is he coming in 10 years? Is he coming in a century? Is he coming in our lifetime? They brought Magi in to the Senate. It's in the records. They brought him into the Senate, and they had Magi explain what this is about. And the Magi must have given them an affirmative answer, because then it was brought to the floor. that they are going to take the range that was presented by the Magi and kill all the baby boys within that range so that this empire would not be toppled. But what happened here, we then read, Suetonius talks about this, and he's quoting somebody by the name of Julius Marathus. And this one says, whenever the younger senators realize, well, my wife is large with child, she's pregnant, and they're talking about killing our baby if we have a delivery of a boy, that they'll murder. Or they were also saying, hey, maybe my son, according to these oracles, maybe my son will be the leader of the world. So what they did was they tabled it. That's the best way I can tell you. They tabled this, and we never see any record that this was ever implemented. If it was very small, and it wasn't really kept on the record on that. All right? And so we see that belief there, which is why we think that Herod had ordered that execution of those 2 and under. He may have just got the pattern because he had ties in with Rome, keeping the idea of the heartbeat of them as well. And so we see that there. Okay, now let's take a look here, and let's look at our time and see what we're doing here. We have 5:30 coming up on 5:30, and I'm going to go back to the questions here. Angela, very good question. And I want to remind you, if you're joining us right now, this is Giving Tuesday, and I'm on till 7 o'clock here with a marathon. We're looking for those that can help me in the giving area of our ministry. I'm going to be heading out on the circuit. My first circuit is going to be up through Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, the Appalachian region. And as we're moving through, then we're asking you, as we now have made access on our website, that you can give. And it is a tax-deductible gift. You can go into the website, go under the side, under the bars, click, and you'll see partner. And if you want to partner with us, then you can go in and give, and it will register. And you're joining the group that includes Fern and George and Mary and Karen and others here that we're looking down at, John and Doug. And thank you so much for your giving here, that it is helping me so much to know that we can give. You can give either a one-time or you can give on a monthly basis. It has all the user-friendly stuff there too. Very, very happy and glad to show this to you too. And on this Giving Tuesday, that really means a lot. And that's why I thought I'd come on here for a while and just encourage you. If you're able to give, that would mean so much. So let me go. Let's just do this for the next half an hour. Let me do this. You may have some questions, and maybe I can get you some answers on heaven, or else we can do this right now, if it's possible, that you're maybe able to have a question about maybe the nativity, or there's a question about heaven, God, the God of heaven, the book of Revelation, end times. If you wish for me, you have a question about, we've been going through on the podcast, verse by verse, on the different verses on God's judgment on earth and the rewards in heaven, things along that line. So let me just open up right now. I'm going to go through and see if there are any questions here, and then if you have some, go ahead and poke them on here now, and let's see if we can't do something too, all right? Yeah, and Shannon, I would very much like to make one of the circuits, one of the 4 circuits next year, coming out to California, and I'm just going to need some people's help on this, as well as prayers, and yeah, let's just do that too. So Shannon's out there on the West Coast watching right now, and thank you so much for that. And we've got Santan Valley. Franklin made it back into Arizona. Wonderful. Now, we want to keep praying for Doug. Doug has had this surgery, went to Johns Hopkins, had this surgery, and things went well. But you know something? You've also got some pain, some soreness, and he doesn't bring this up and complain, everything. But you know something? All of us have had back injuries and such like that. Would you keep praying for Doug? He's going to have some post-operative back surgery, and so we want to continue to pray for him, okay? Thank you for your prayers. It looks like we got over the flu-like symptoms that we had here. Teresa, thank you for your help here. She's putting things down here. And, okay, and Brony, you told me your name here, and I completely forgot it. Let me go back. Jonathan, okay, Jonathan here, he's helping. Listen, I really, really appreciate you being on here. And we're asking, Chips is asking for a prayer for his sister. I believe that her name is pronounced Dulce. You tell me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. And we're going to pray for her salvation. We're definitely going to pray for her salvation here. And I'm going to mark this on down here. And thank you. Make sure that you keep me in touch on this, okay? Thank you so much for bringing that up. And as Teresa says, I am on TikTok in the morning at 8:30. And Teresa, wonderful, wonderful moderator, just helping, and a prayer warrior as well. Okay, Brenda, I'm not sure who you're referring to. I am sorry, I didn't see it here. Just let me know, okay? Yes, yeah, we are 501c3, as Teresa says. You can give your donation to theheaventour.com. You can be a partner. You will receive a receipt on that, and that's why I'm on here right now. Now, do you have some questions? We can go to Q&A right now. I want to welcome you. We've got our friends from Netherlands, Mariette from Netherlands. We have other ones from across the country, California over here into Arizona, and over here, I believe we've got some in Georgia. And so we've got them all around the country, and I welcome each one of you. If you have a question, now's the time. Let's go into some Q&A time, all right? Welcome into the barn studio, and I've been kind of decorating a little bit here. Charlie Brown Christmas tree is right there, and then you have our wreath. And the fire is burning. It's nice and toasty in here in the barn. And so I'm going to thank you also for your giving and making our studio the way it is right now. Louis asking, does Revelation 21 verse 4 mean if some of my family is suffering in hell, I will know about it, but it will not bother me, or I will forget about them? Louis, the best thing that I can tell you is, in this, do we retain a memory? Yes, we do. We don't lose our memory. That's who we are. Will we be aware that there will be those in hell? As far as I know, I see nothing that would negate that, except for a passage in Isaiah 65 that says the troublesomeness of it will be gone. You see, because in Revelation 19 gives us a good principle. We will understand from God's perspective. We will see. He is holy, as Romans 1 says. He has given us, through his invisible attributes and his divine nature, given us very clearly the truth of his ways, his presence, his mercy. But people have taken it and rejected it. We will understand it from his perspective. So yes, indeed, it could mean at first this will cause us sorrow, but God will wipe it away, the tears, and we will understand that. All right. Neona, I skipped your question. All right, Neona, you be patient now, ma'am. I'm going to go back and look here. Neona's that troublemaker, isn't she? All right, okay. Now, I'm taking a look here, Neona, and I don't see your question. Let me keep going back. Let me keep going back here. I'm looking here. Oh, thank you, Jenna. Yeah, hey, listen, I'm doing that decorating myself here, you know. Maybe I got, if you like it, maybe I have a bit of an artistic bend here. All right, Miss Nona, I am looking all the way back here, and I don't see your question. Did you cause trouble and get timed out or something like that? No, I'm kidding you. I just don't see it here. No, I've gone all the way back. Nona, I need you to put your question down again. All right, I don't see it. All right, and so you put that down again, and I've got time here. I'm going to be on here till 7. And you put that down there, and I'll tell you what, yours will be the next question I'll answer, okay? All right, you go ahead and you put that down here. Let's get that question up here, okay? We're going to all wait for Neona's question to come up here, and let's get right to it. All right, let's do that too. Let me take a look over here. If you are just coming on, this is our mini marathon on Giving Tuesday, and I want to thank our dear friends here. Let me see if I can't get this over here and take a look here. Oh my goodness. William and Fern, thank you so much. George and Lindsay, thank you so much. And we have our list here, and this is really, really helping out on our first circuit as we get things going. I really want to let you know this means so much. If you'd like to help us in any gift, listen, just even if you're able to pay for an extra gallon of gas as I'm heading up to the Appalachian area, or something along that line, you're able to pay for a book that I can donate over to some of the people that can't afford some of our study books and things like that. Anything helps, you know, any amount. If you'd like to give on a regular basis, and then God bless you, thank you so much too. Well, I'm being scouted by the barn cat here. Neona, you put down your question here, and I want to put that, oh, here you go. Okay, here we go. Oh, you want to say hi? Come here. Come here. I'm going to answer Neona's question. You come on over here. Well, I can't reach you. Come on. All right. If you're going to sit back there, okay, I'm going to answer Neona's question here. You want to come over here? All right. You come here and say hi. All right. Smokey wants to say hi before we get going here. Smokey, I'm going to tell you something here. He had a bit of a surprise today. While I was teaching, some of you know, this morning, Smokey got into the car engine. And this bad little fella got his paw stuck. And if some of you were with me on YouTube and you can see it, I'm totally dumbfounded, and it is on archive. I'm looking over and my wife writes this note while I'm sitting here and talking with you all, and we're getting into something, and she says, you're going to need to help. Smokey is caught in the Honda engine right now. And I literally had to get up, and I didn't know what to do, whether I was going to hang off. And this little fella had his paw caught, getting nosy in the engine. So now what we've got to do is every time we're getting ready to pull out, we want to make sure that he's not hanging around in the engine. And so he was a bit traumatized this morning and hanging around. So he's up here with me. But he wanted to say hi here. He is getting to be a big fella. He's a mouser. If you can take a look at these paws here, I think this is the one he got snagged in there. And there seems to be no damage. We were looking around. So you probably hear him. He has part Siamese. And so that's why you hear this loud call. He talks with us all the time. But he's actually falling asleep as I'm holding him, too. He is a very content cat and everything. And the funniest thing is we find out is that 10:30 in the morning, he knows exactly when I'm finishing. He will come over to the door like, would you finish up? And then he takes me down into the farmhouse, everything. And so he's here, and we had a close call. And we got called down there because my daughter and her boyfriend were down there trying to figure out what in the world is the noise coming from inside in the engine. And so he had a paw caught in there, getting a little bit too nosy. He is actually falling asleep while I'm holding him up. So, very content cat. All right, Smokey, go over here. You're going to be here. I might bring him over here later on. But he's been a good fella. He's been a real good fella. When we had some of the wild animals take the rest of the family out one night, and he's been orphaned, and so we take real good care of him here. But he's been a real good mouser and taking care of the area here. All right. So I thought I'd just give you a little bit of that. And if you're here and you're just coming in this evening, I want to thank you on the mini marathon. I'll be here till 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we're just looking at raising support through our new website. You can go on to there to partner with us and help me on my very first circuit on here. And I'll tell you more about that. Okay, let's go. Let me see. Oh, we got Johnny here. We've got our wonderful moderator. Johnny, thank you for coming on here. And Johnny, I got to meet him when I was up speaking in Pittsburgh area. Oh, this would be in the springtime, I think, right, Johnny? We were up there. Okay, so Neona, let me go back and let me talk with you about this. And sorry about that, but Smokey wanted his attention. Neona says, you said earlier that the parents told their daughters, you may be the one. Did they raise their virginal daughters in expectation of being the vessel? Yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Until they became of married age, these young Jewish girls were taught as virgins, you may be the one that Yahweh is choosing for the Messiah to come. You may be the one in the anticipation of Isaiah 7:14, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son and call his name Emmanuel. Yes, indeed. Yeah, isn't that fascinating? It is very, very much. All right, and so I got your question answered, Neona. And so if you have another one, you make sure that you let me know about that, okay? Sport Rider, tell me where you're from. You really sound familiar. You let me know where you're from, okay? I have an idea that you might be from an area where I grew up, but you let me know. Does the parable of Lazarus and the rich man explain that those in hell are able to see into heaven? No, well, no, it doesn't, because in here, there's something. Now, when we look at the parable, Jesus is teaching about this, but here's the thing. He calls for Lazarus, but it doesn't say he can see into heaven, all right? And whether this is a parable or not, we do get some solid truths about the afterlife. One, those in hell do have a memory, because he says, I do have brothers on earth. Two, heaven and hell will never mix, okay? even as Abraham says in this illustration by Jesus, there's a gulf fixed. Nobody goes either way. 3, you will find this out. The rich man is so selfish, even in hell, he continues his ways. Did you see what he says? Send Lazarus down, get me some water. He's seen Lazarus as a whipping boy. He sees him in eternity. If you can go ahead and get Lazarus up there to come down, see, he's still in that way. All right, do you understand? And then number 4, did you notice he never tries to bargain to get out? He knows he's stuck. He just wants relief from where he was. He knows full well. All right, and there are some other things that that can come out of this passage, such as Lazarus goes immediately to heaven when he dies. All right, the rebellious man goes immediately to hell. All of those other things, but we don't see through there as clearly as I think you're asking. That he says, "Oh, look over there. There's Lazarus. Go get me." You know, it's just in his memory. He's known that Lazarus has been this one that will do anybody's bidding or should, and he's such a low life and all. So you've got a good question. Very, very good question on there. All right. Fern, no, I thank you. This is a very, very kind of you all to have enough patience to be here and be with me. Okay. Teresa, that'd be Isaiah 7:14. I'm probably speaking too fast, and I apologize for that. Isaiah 7 and verse 14. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and he'll call his name Emmanuel. What does Emmanuel mean? God with us. I got to speak at Emmanuel Baptist Church up near Harrisburg, and that's a wonderful name for a church, isn't it? God with us. God with us. You see that as well. Let me take a quick look and see if we have any new patrons with us on our list here, and then we'll continue on. Well, Miss Shannon has joined us, and God bless you. Thank you. So Shannon has joined the tour guides that are helping us on my circuit, my first circuit here. We have Shannon and Karen and Mary, Doug and Jessica, along with John and Louie and Lindsay and George and Fern and William. Thank you all. The reason I'm saying this, if you just came on, is I'm going to take 4 circuits as the Lord would allow next year. I'm laying out a map, and I'm going to make a circle around there in different areas. And there are some churches that are small, and they just can't afford for any travel expenses or anything else like that. And so I'm asking if you can help me with gas money. The tires get worn out. Last year, we had the struts were going bad. I was traveling so much, we had to replace those. Pretty major expense. And those things. And all of your giving just helps out on that. And I'm telling you, we keep food on the table here. I'm able to. And we had a wonderful couple meet me, and they said, look, we've been watching you last year, and you were in here giving devotions, and we could see your breath. It was too cold. We're paying for insulation. And so I've been able to have the entire barn here insulated here, and we're slowly making this studio into areas where I'm able to have different places where I can share the gospel and put up some other notes and whiteboards and things like that too. Okay. Sport, hey, that's no problem. The thing is, you're studying the scripture, and that's what we need. What I enjoy so much is we have the spirit of Acts 17:11 here with our friends. You are studying the scriptures daily to see whether these things are so, and I'm thankful for that. All right, and very good. Do we have some other questions? I'm taking this next 15 minutes, just Q&A, then I'll go back to the study on the nativity. We'll go back into that. But right now it's just an open forum. As it is, we can say that this is going to be a open line time here. And then what I wanted to do is get into specifically start talking about some other things about the nativity story and share them with you too. But what I want to do is answer your questions. If you can do this, if you have a question, while I bring up some other things. I've got all kinds of PowerPoint notes all over here, wanting to go back and share some different things with you on there. Specific question, okay? Okay, Louis saying, Brad, to add to that sports writer's question, wasn't that parable of Lazarus and the rich man about Lazarus and Abraham being in Abraham's bosom, the place before people went to heaven and rich men in hell? It would be like this. This is talking about the afterlife. We have different levels of the afterlife that are referred to. One time it's called paradise. One time means Abraham's bosom, which means by Abraham's side, referring to in banquets, if you were next to the chest of somebody, you were the most, you were the special. One on either side in these places, they were the special ones to be by Abraham's side, the father of all of the faith. This is a very special term. A place of rest, all right? How elaborate is it in the Old Testament era? The Bible is not clear. It is a place that we see. Jesus then refers to, in going to this place, in the presence of God, Luke 16 says it's a place of comfort. Lazarus is being comforted right now. He talks about the promise of the kingdom to come in Matthew chapter 25 as a place of joy. And we're seeing that. And so those things, we would say that. Now, when you're saying the Lazarus and the rich man, when you're talking about Abraham, Abraham speaks to the rich man. I think that's what you're asking here, on here. And so this is going to be the place of great comfort and care by that. That's what it's talking about. All right. And Teresa, you're talking about your son Mike, the devotional time. Well, fantastic. That's wonderful. I'm so glad that. And you have some great resources here. And along with that, Teresa, you can always go back to Our Daily Bread. If you go to odb.org, and you will find they will send you free devotional booklets. It doesn't cost you a cent. You can order 2 of them, one for you and one for your son, and you can have this on a regular basis. You can read even besides your regular devotions, and that's a free gift as well. And so that's a very valuable resource there for you. Okay, I'm so glad. Up for a second. Sorry about that. And let me see. We're going to continue on. Okay, here we go. Karen has a question. We have open line till the top of the hour here. Brad, I don't have a question, but I wanted to tell you when I read your book, Heaven, The Adventure Begins, my heart broke when I read about your pastor, Tom. Karen, that was a very hard time. It's still hard for me. Tom came in. I was coming back, as you know, in the blog, I was coming back from a mission trip, and I took a red eye. I was traveling by myself, and when I came in, I came in the middle of a Sunday morning. No, right after church. I wasn't able to make church. My flight actually came in during morning church time, and I came in about to flop down in bed because I traveled all night. And I said to my wife, I'm going to check the mail just before I go to bed. And one of the members of the church had passed out an email telling us all that Tom had come before the church and had announced that he had stage 4 cancer, liver cancer, advanced. He wasn't going to make the end of the year, and this was in May. And from that evening when I went in, we were broken. I mean, absolutely just, it was so hard. I can still remember it very clearly. But God put on my heart, I to this day can't tell you why, but God said, you're going to write about this. You're going to write about this man. And I did on that blog. And I felt it very important. And my blog followers were about 50 to 40 at the time. It went up to 9,000. Oh, nothing to do with me. But people wanted to know, what about it if you have been given the earthly death sentence that you are going to move from this life very soon, and you're a Christian, what's it like? And that's what people wanted to know. People came from all over the country to sit down in our little church and to hear Tom speaking. Through the weeks, as he lost about the average of 10 pounds a week, he would last 12 weeks before he passed away. And he was skeletal in his last days. It was very hard for us all. And couldn't eat. He was actually pushing granola into his mouth while he was speaking. I had to sit down on the side of the upper level of our stage, if you want to call it a stage, platform, and all. But during that time, he basically was telling us, I'm heading to heaven in eternity, and it's okay. Absolutely, it changed. It actually was a catalyst for this ministry here in seeing that. And a piece that we all got, oh my goodness, it was just so much there. And so, Karen, thanks for sharing that. I felt that very important. I wanted to put that in so that would never get lost. You know, I would lose that blog, but I wanted people to read that. All right. Let me see. Brenda, we'll be praying for your kids' interest. We want to. We can just be in prayer for the just the yearning and the thirsting for the word as well. We've got about 10 more minutes on the open line here. If you have a question or anything about heaven, maybe through the weeks I've brought something up about heaven or Revelation, and you're like, hey, I needed to ask. And so this is a very good time for you to ask. I'm going to be on here till 7. We're trying to just raise support through our brand new website here. Very excited about this. You can go into our website if you've just joined us, and then go on into our website and give in helping me on our circuits for the Heaven Tour for next year. I want to thank all of these wonderful people that have made this possible here. And it's just so kind. You're so kind on this and helping out. Dwayne has just joined us. Dwayne Mitchell. Dwayne, welcome. And I thank you, my friend, for being another one of our tour guides here. You're joining with Shannon Bradford and Karen Spear and Mary Flores, Fern Bailey, and these others in here. And Dwayne, that really means a lot. Thank you so much for helping us out too, as well. Does anybody have a question here that you might want to ask? Here I can move on into our study on the different teachings in the Christmas story as well, if you'd like to. But you let me know. I'm going to keep an eye on this here. Let me look down here, and then I'm going to go over here and see if I can. Dwayne, welcome. I really appreciate the tour guides that are coming on here as well. Let me see. Chips, the website is theheaventour.com. T-H-E, theheaventour.com, C-O-M. T-H-E, theheaventour.com. Go over to the left-hand side, hit the lines there that are on the side, drop down to partner, and you can partner with us. And we are a 501c3. Your gifts are tax deductible as well. Wonderful. Mitch, thank you for being here. That's who it is, Mitch 222. All right, man. I appreciate you so very, very much. Very kind of you. All right, now, we talked about, well, let's see. Okay. We've been talking down here about Herod and looking at him. And I'm going to talk about the star a little bit. I'm going to talk about the star. Okay? I'm going to jump in and take a look at that in a little bit. Let me see if I can find this, because I'm jumping into the middle of the study. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about it. Okay, we're going to go into it a little bit on the Star of Bethlehem and some very interesting teaching about it in a little bit here. But now let's go back to our questions. Neona, Neona is asking, since Jesus came and made a new covenant, we're no longer under the law. Does that include things like Deuteronomy 23:1 and things like tattoos as well? It's along this line. The scriptures, you have 3 types of laws in the scriptures. And in the Old Testament, you have the moral laws, which are for all people for all time. Think of Exodus chapter 20. Thou shalt not murder. And the reason I use that term instead of kill is the Hebrew word means taking an innocent life. The Hebrew word is ratshak. Well, you're not to take an innocent life. Okay, this is something that's good for all men for all time. All right? It's not a whimsical thing. You should not steal. Okay? I think everybody agrees that that's true. Those are moral laws. Okay? That's the first set of laws that are given in the Old Testament. They're for all people for all time. The second one are the civil laws. Now, those are laws that are enacted for the better of the populace, but the punishments are different from today. For example, I always use this one. If I was to go out and steal a car, and I'm caught and I'm taken in before the magistrate down here in our county, I don't go in the old days, and you see in the Old Testament, well, you steal a sheep, you give 4 back. You steal a cow, you got to give 2 back, something like that. Now, I don't give 4 cars back to the people where I stole it, all right? That doesn't work this way. I'm incarcerated. I'm put in jail, okay? But in those days, in an agrarian society, you put that one in jail and they're not able to help out their family, and then the whole family suffers. because of this one, because nobody's able to till the soil, things along that line. So it's different. The civil laws, the punishments are different in the ways that they're presented. Then the third one's ceremonial laws. And these are to set Israel apart from those around them. They're monotheistic. The rest of the societies are polytheistic. They're there. They're worshiping the Lord. So they're wearing different clothing. Don't mix the linen and the cotton on there. Why are you dressed this way? We all have this different, because we follow one God. They're setting themselves apart. The long beard's a part of it. The special diets are a part of it. Why? Well, because we, in everything we do, in what we do and what we say, and all of these things, we're set apart ones, okay, on that. So there's ceremonial laws. If you're going to follow me, this is what we're going to do. There's ceremonial laws. Well, see, for the dietary restrictions, such as no shellfish and things like that, then you find in Acts chapter 10, Peter, being a Jew, is told, the dietary law, now that we're under grace, is no longer of effect. You can eat whatever you want. Now, there are many Messianic Jews that will still follow the dietary laws of their culture. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Romans 14 says, if somebody says, I'm going to be a vegan for Christ, let them alone. Somebody else says, I'm going to eat steak all the time and I'm going to enjoy it. And what the Lord has given in the bounty, I'm a beef farmer and steak all the time, and praise the Lord. And you come over to my house, you're going to have barbecue. And somebody goes, all that meat and everything. Hey, let him alone. He's thankful to the Lord. You let him alone. Okay, what you eat, all right, on there. And it says also in the calendar, we've talked about this. People wanting to judge because I have a Christmas tree here. I have a Christmas wreath. Have you heard this? I just still can't get this. All right. And I always tell them, Romans 14:26. One person esteems another day above another as they esteem it unto the Lord. Let him alone. And that's what I tell people. I'm esteeming this day. This is a wonderful celebration of Christ coming to earth. We're here talking about it in the Nativity story, in the Advent. We're doing this, and some people would dare say, you're celebrating a pagan holiday. Can we go back over this again? All right? I think it's been 3 times people that have gone to my posts here that I've had on TikTok and YouTube, and they step right in, not watching the post at all, and go, well, you should know. Do you read your Bible at all? Jesus was not born on December 25th. Have you seen these posts? This is one, it causes me pause. And I tried to be as kind as possible, and I said, could you show me where I said Jesus was born on December 25th? I think everybody knows, saved and unsaved, tall and short, rich and poor, whatever their background, male and female, everybody agrees Jesus was not born on December 25th. Why is this even an issue? All right? But it's just as we said, we have people that are straining at a gnat and swallowing a camel with all the wonder of what Christ has done and the story leading up to the resurrection, the crucifixion and resurrection. And we're worried about a green plant in the corner of our living room. Are you kidding me? All right? I try to keep my patience as much as possible, but there are times when it's very much tried for people, talking that way, just going into just meaningless things in which there's a greater picture here when we're talking about, just some wonderful things. I don't even want to get into it, waste time, all right? Let me see. Teresa, currently reading 1 Kings, and I love these 3 verses, 8, 9 through 11. Okay, now let me talk first of all, in all respect. I'll go to these, and then I want to go to Teresa's here. So let's start off, and let's be specific on this, because Neona has put these down, and I want to show you these, okay? So let me go on over and get Blue Letter Bible over here, and let's take a look at this here. Let me see if I even have it. Yeah, I do. It's over here. Okay. The first one you were asking is, let's go specific. Deuteronomy chapter 23, and you said Deuteronomy 23. Let's go over to it. And verse 1. And the question was, does this apply today? Okay. Well, that one's a pretty expressive one. It's talking about somebody's damaged in the organs. The male shall not enter into the kingdom and all. And so, absolutely not. Because take a look at the next one. Let's use a more careful term. I'm looking at the KJV, and I'll go into the next verse and then word it a little bit different. No one of illegitimate birth shall enter the assembly of Yahweh, even to the 10th generation. This is a family curse. And look at this. This means also in verse 23 and verse 3. The Moabites. Did you know Ruth, in the story of Ruth? She was the 10th generation. If you go to the family history, the genealogies, and you will see that Ruth is in the 10th generation. It says up to the 10th generation. But these things here, when you see these things, these are talking about the laws that I was applying. These are not the moral laws. We are not held under these particular laws, telling you, hey, listen, you don't have a legitimate birth. You can't come to our church. No, this is not. This is what I tell people. That was then, this is now, when you're talking about the ceremonial laws that are being enacted here. And thank the Lord, okay? And you're also talking about Leviticus. If the other ones want to know about the first one, it gets more. Here's what it says. A eunuch, whoever's a eunuch, had the emasculated, which is a very kind term here, cut off. They won't enter into there, on there. And when we start reading later on about those, when we take a look in Isaiah, we're seeing in verse 56, it says, even if you're an outsider, if you're following me, I'm going to make you, bring you into my household. So these are wonderful promises that then come outside of the ceremonial laws. And then I'm going to go in respect to your question. You said Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 28, and I'm going to read it from the Legacy version. Let me go back up. Oh, yeah, the Leviticus 19. I'm sorry, I completely blanked out on the tattoo question. No, because, see, read the context, Neona. This is talking about a cult. This is talking about, the historians say, this is what, see, read the whole thing when we're taking a look at this, okay? You're not to eat anything with blood, nor interpret omens or soothsaying, okay? You're not to be in any kind of necromancy, all right? You don't round off the side growth of your heads, nor harm the edges of your beards. When they start looking back, this was a sign of people within a certain cultic group. They were shaping their hair to be identified with it, okay? Not make any cuts in your body for the dead, make any tattoo marks on yourself, I'm Yahweh. This is talking in that sense of not to identify with that. So that's really, in the context, it's talking about that. All right. Now, if that doesn't answer your question more fully, then let me know here. And Teresa, it's on here. If you've just joined us, we're having a mini marathon on this Giving Tuesday, and I'll be on with you until 7 o'clock here as we're raising funds for me to be able to travel over into the First Circuit, over into the Appalachian region, and then moving up into Pennsylvania. If I can go up into the New England states, I'll do that as well. I would absolutely love to do that if that's possible. And we're trying to raise the support for me to be able to do that on here. Let me see. You said 1 Kings. In 1 Kings. And you are looking at chapter 8, verses 9 through 11. Let's take a look there. There was nothing in the ark except the 2 tablets of stone which Moses laid there at Horeb, where Yahweh cut a covenant with the sons of Israel. They came out of land of Egypt. And now it happened when the priests came out of the holy place, the cloud filled the house of Yahweh. The priests could not stand to minister because of the cloud, for the glory of Yahweh filled the house of Yahweh. Isn't that absolutely amazing? When they brought the Ark of the Covenant in, this sacred artifact representing the presence of God, God's glory, the Shekinah glory, means it's a God presence, was in there to the point it was overcoming them. Could you imagine that? That the glory of God is so strong you could hardly even stand it here on earth. In a sense, it's overwhelming to you. Boy, what a scene that would make. Absolutely wonderful. Okay. All right. Yeah, Tony, it would be funny if he was born December 25th. What you mostly have is the Passover lambs, it seems, that the shepherds that were in the fields were on the Passover lambs. If that's so, it looks like that Jesus was born about in the area of the month of Nisan, Nisan. And there's a lot of speculation among Bible researchers that it would be near in the springtime that Christ was there. Could be. All right. At Neona, a lot of modern-day men get a vasectomy on there. It's a little more radical in this passage. It's talking more than just tying off some tubes. It's going pretty radical there. No problem. You had a good question. Very good. And I want to answer any way that I can from the scriptures and help. Does God have actual feelings, or is it metaphorical when the Bible talks of his anger, etc.? Oh, no. The Bible, God is absolutely angry. And I want to show you something here. When we go, for example, into Revelation, I want to show you something here, which is a great question. Very, very good question. The Bible tells you, like Psalm 78, okay? He abounded in turning back his anger, did not arouse all of his wrath. It's talking about he does have wrath, but he turned away because of the repentant ones here. And Psalm 78, Yahweh heard and saw something and was full of wrath. And on here. Now, I want you to see this because we see this all through the book of Revelation when we're talking about this. In Revelation, he will strike down the nations. He'll rule them with a rod of iron. He treads the winepress of the wrath of the rage of God in Revelation chapter 19. I'm about in the podcast to go into Revelation chapter 18 and then leading into Armageddon in chapter 19. And you see God's wrath here. It is absolutely amazing. Let me give you an idea. There's a passage, if I can bring it to you. Let me back up. And I'm trying to think. Well, you have, I can take this one. In Revelation chapter 16, let me give you an idea. It says, go and pour out on the earth the 7 bowls of the judgment of God? No, of the wrath of God. The wrath of God. This is a very, very powerful word here when we see this word wrath, because there are 2 different words for his anger. This one is thumos. Thumos, the other one is orge. Orge is a settled, determined anger. Think of a boiling pot of water. You turn it on and it starts simmering, and then after a while it builds and it builds and it builds, and now you got a full pot of boiling water. It started simmering and then it got more and more. And some of you are like this. You put up with a lot, but it starts to build on you, and then suddenly you're in danger of it exploding. And then somebody says, turn it off, and you're like, I can't. Well, that's the orge, because when you turn off the water from the heat, it doesn't go down automatically and become cool. It will have to simmer down. That's orge. That's one type. It's a settled, determined anger. I have determined you are going to get punished, and that's God in that. But thumos is an explosion. It's not boiling water. It's not simmering going. Thumos, the wrath, is explosive in destruction. So it's talking about in Revelation chapter 16, as these bowls are poured out, these will be explosively dangerous. The final judgment's going upon mankind, and they are poured out. As a matter of fact, one's poured out into the air and on. You see this. And so these are very literal. Very literal. You have a wonderful question on that. Yes, that's why it says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 9 that we have escaped that wrath because through Jesus Christ we've found God's mercy. We've found his grace. So that very same word, that the believer does not face that wrath. Thank the Lord to that. Great question. I haven't heard that one in quite a long time. All right. Let me see. Okay, I think that I've gone down to the questions here. Does anybody have another one before I go back into our study in the Christmas story here? Let me go into this here, and let me know if you have a question here. I'm going to go quickly and look through, and then, okay, here we go. Let me see. As I'm looking here, Christmas Bible, I'm going to get things set up here because I want you to see this, but I want to get this in order, okay? Let me see. I want to talk about that star. And what I want to do is get you down to the right place here. when we're talking about this. And I want to make sure that I have the right things here. Let me just start with what I have here, because I'm going to take too much time in trying to find all the things. Now, what I want to do, let me see, this is Bible Christmas 6. I'm going to go back. Let me get the question here. Let me see real quickly here. Okay? All right. The reason I'm taking time is there is a wonderful, wonderful study on the actual Star of Bethlehem. And there's a great, great teaching there that I want you to see in there. And in the time that we have, since we do have time, I want you to see this. And let me see if I can't get this. Let's see. Star within in here. And let me pull it out. I'm going to go do a search real fast here. Let's see. Bethlehem. And I'm going to check here on the questions, and you can email. Yeah, absolutely. Let me move back here. And I want to thank you for your giving. This is one. Here we go. Here we go. So I'm going to show you this. When we started on this, we talked about the addiction to astrology by Suetonius is telling us about Vespasian and such and all. Then we start seeing this. Herod is wondering, how in the world can they get the direction to be here? How can this happen? Well, they're trying to find this way, and they found it for a star. There are qualifications about this Star of Bethlehem, and I'm going to go as far as I can until I get another question here and tell you about it. So you want to write this down. We go to Matthew chapter 2, and we're seeing, and in Matthew chapter 2, and you're looking at verse 8, and they say, we found a star, we've been following the star, we're looking for the Christ child, we want to worship him. So the Magi saw this, and this can be possibly, they have seen this as far back as Babylon. That's one of the qualifications. There has to be a star in the sky. They keep following. We've been following this particular star. Takes them all the way to Judea, and they're still staying there, and they are going over, and it's going to take them to where they are still seeing this fixed in the sky, and then they're able to follow it out of Jerusalem, 5.5 miles south, down to Bethlehem. So you've got some pretty tight qualifications on this, among other ones here, and whenever they're looking for this particular star, they're seeing this, and they're realizing, this is not, if it's a comet, it's not going to be fixed. If it's an asteroid, it's only going to last a couple of seconds. They're not talking about something, they're talking about something more fixed, all right? So we're looking at Bethlehem, about 5.5 miles south of Jerusalem on the main road. And so they're going to be looking at this star and finding it as very powerful here because of one thing. When the scripture tells you that the star was over Bethlehem, it stopped. Can a star do that? Well, yes, it can. When we take a look at this in the story and we take a look at the charts of those days, we see this, okay? So the one thing is, if we see it, somebody says, well, it's a meteor. Well, it doesn't make any sense when we're looking at this because it's going to be a meteorite. It only lasts for a few seconds. And then how are they going to be able to start saying, okay, by that meteor, we see the king, we see the Messiah's birthplace. It's not long enough for them to do that, okay? Well, what about a comet? Well, there's another thing I want to bring up about a comet. If the Star of Bethlehem is a comet, all through history in these many civilizations, they were always seen as a bad omen, not a good omen. They were of doom, destruction, something like that. Would come in here, and nobody asked this comet to come in here. Everything seems so structured, and suddenly you see this rogue appearance, and that's why it was always seen as a bad omen. Everything is fine. It's bringing us some sort of the wrong type of a message, so it's doubtful on that. And here's the other thing. When we go back through astrological charts, and we're going to get pretty extensive here. You're looking at 3 or 2 BC. That's about the time, it moves off by a couple of years. When we start looking around within that handful of years around the time of Christ, we look at this. We see several civilizations had very, very exacting star charts, especially the Chinese. There is nothing there in any of those records we have from way back then, extensively, thousands of years, mentions anything about a comet. So there's just no record of one there too. And they're obvious. They're going to be obvious. People are going to be talking about it. No record of that as well. So something happens in the sky that causes such a response that there's going to be an attention there. But we've eliminated something unusual. The stars are fixed, so this star is moving, all right? But it's not a meteorite. It's not a comet. It's not an anomaly like that. Well, there's one other thing we can consider, a planet. Now, this is where I need you to take the notes because I did a lot of study on this. This is why I had to dig through my notes here. And in the time that I have, I want to share this with you. The greatest of the planets is also been known by the great god of Roman mythology, Jupiter. Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system, and it's been known as the king planet. It's a gas giant here. It's 11 times bigger than Earth. It's 300 times more massive. It circles the sun orbits about every 12 years. In ancient times, they called planets like Jupiter, they called them wandering stars. As a matter of fact, it's interesting. The term for planet literally means a wanderer. Planao is the Greek verb, the koine Greek verb means to wander. It tells you later on, don't be wandering in your faith. Don't be planao, okay? So it's talking about a wanderer here. Now, so if you have a magus, that's a magi, a singular, okay? A wise man, an astronomer, a magus of that time, viewing from the Middle East, and he's looking up about 3 or 2 BC. Jupiter's movements have to have exacting measurements for us to look at it and consider maybe this had a part to do with the star movement in the sky. On September 3rd, September of 3 BC, at the time of the Jewish New Year called Rosh Hashanah, Jupiter started to make a very strange move. An astronomer there looking up, a magus, one of the magi, all right, magi plural, magus singular, would be watching Jupiter that September. He saw 2 objects moving so closely that it looked like they were touching. This, when you have this, I want you to write this word down. It's called a conjunction. When you have 2 celestial bodies that are coming near together, that's called a conjunction. The magus is looking and seeing Jupiter coming close conjunction with a star, and the star is called Regulus. Regulus. This is factual. We're not making this up. This is a very, very powerful thing. So Regulus, this comes from the word, we call the word, if something's regal, Regulus comes from this. The Babylonians would call Regulus Sharu, the Babylonian term for this massive star, this very prominent star. And that also means king. Jupiter meaning king, okay? We have Regulus meaning king, Sharu. The Romans called Regulus Rex, which also means king, all right? So at the beginning of the Jewish New Year, the planet of the kings is now going to meet in the sky the star of kings. Jupiter and Regulus are coming together in a conjunction. Now, this is not anything big because this happens. Jupiter moves past Regulus about every 12 years. This is nothing too shocking at that time, but keep following though. So in his lifetime, this magus, this astronomer, may have seen this 2 or 3 times before. Jupiter's orbit kind of moves near to Regulus at that time. So that might be that it gets very close and sometimes it doesn't. However, that's going to happen. The planets move, and they're moving. When the planets move, you've got fixed stars in the sky. they're going to move there. So it looks like they're active to us. And I put quotes around the word active here. If you watch Jupiter each night for several weeks, you're going to see through the starry field, you're going to see Jupiter move eastward, so it's not really doing that. It's just from our perspective here. And each night Jupiter is going to rise in the east, and it moves farther east in the field of fixed stars. And all of the planets are doing this, as we see them against the fixed stars, we see them doing that. But here's the thing, wandering stars, they have a strange motion. So every once in a while, it looks like stars are moving backwards through other stars. That's because we're moving through space, and it'll give them the time, it'll give them the appearance that they're actually moving backwards. But we are going through space. Remember, we're talking about the Star of Bethlehem. It's coming in there. So when you pass a car in the freeway, it looks like it's going behind you, even though you're moving. Well, similar reasons. When we swing past another planet, then the planet appears to move backwards, and you're calling this retrograde motion. And that comes to play when we're talking about the Star of Bethlehem. Retrograde motion. We're moving, but it looks like the star is moving backwards. It's just that our perspective has changed. Now, so what happens is in 3 to 2 BC, at the time Christ is going to be born, Jupiter goes into retrograde. It's wandering, starts moving backwards. And that's unusual now. So the astronomer at that time is going to notice that. Jupiter and Regulus had their conjunction meeting, not too unusual. But now something at the time designated by God, we know from history this is what happens. Jupiter continues through the star field, then it goes retrograde. It turns around as if it changes its mind, and it starts moving backwards. And it heads back to Regulus for a second conjunction. Now that's highly unusual. Every 12 years, they move past, hello, goodbye, and they move. But now it's almost like the Magi is saying, well, wait a minute, it looks like it's returning. It's because of our view on Earth. Nevertheless, this is an anomaly he hasn't seen before. It comes back to say hello a second time in this conjunction. And then after the second pass, here's the weird thing. It moves because of the way and the nature of Earth and everything at that time, and we know from the astronomical records, then we see this. It goes for a third rendezvous. It changes, we're moving through space, and it looks like the star moves back and then comes back for a third time. It's a triple conjunction, a triple pass. Yeah, this is very rare, okay? Over a period of months, what we're seeing is the planet of the kings is going to move above the star of kings like this, just like a halo above there. Now, that might start getting him to thinking about, maybe this is what Daniel was talking about. This might be a sign of the king to come, the Messiah to come. Now, when we see this, what is going on here, okay? Now, we take a look. The Jewish nations is composed of 12 tribes. We know that. And then it tells us, Jewish prophecy states, the tribe where Jesus is going to come, or the Messiah is going to come, we'll call him Jesus, where the Messiah comes, it's going to become the tribe of Judah. Listen very carefully. The symbol of Judah's tribe is the lion. And in the lion, we see this, Genesis chapter 49 and verse 9 and 10. You are a lion's cub, O Judah. You return from the prey, my son. Like a lion, he crouches, lies down like a lioness. Who dares rouse him? The scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until he comes to whom it belongs, and the obedience of the nations is his. This triple conjunction occurs within the constellation of Leo, the lion. Are you starting to get something that is very intriguing here? When they see this, they were seeing something having to do with a king. Now, let me stop here in our time. We're almost at the bottom of the hour. And let me tell, if you're joining us now, this is our mini marathon as we're all together and we're looking at the Heaven Tour, as I am looking and letting everybody know that our website, theheaventour.com, is now ready for you if you wish to give to help us in the next big circuit that I'm going to travel next year around the country in the first quarter of our of 2024, as the Lord would allow. We're needing to raise support for me to be able to go on the many things that I'll need. Travel, wear of tires, the fuel needs, possibly if it comes along I need a hotel to do that, to reach churches that really can't afford to have a speaker. Maybe they want me very much to come, but there's just a financial need there. And we're looking for help on that. And when you join us, you become, in a sense, a tour guide. You're helping us make this possible, and I appreciate it so much. And we've had some wonderful people making this possible. And you can go onto the site and you can give. And I want to thank you. We have some new friends here. Timothy Crane, thank you so much for being here and helping us out. This really means a lot, Timothy. Timothy's joined Karen and Mary and Douglas and John and Louie and Lindsay and George as well. And also we want to say hello to Stephen Brubaker, who's also given very generously. I do appreciate all of this support and helping us out. This means so much. And I want to say, God bless you. Thank you so much for this, the encouragement on this, that I'm able to go and let these people know it's because of our tour guides helping us on this Heaven Tour that we're able to make this possible. You're partnering with me. This means so very much. If you're coming on, you're saying, what in the world can I do in this? Theheaventour.com, theheaventour.com. As you give, then we are 501c3. You have a tax deductible gift here, and then we will send you a receipt on this. Thank you so very, very much for your help on this. Timothy and Stephen, welcome over to the tour guide group as I'm heading on the circuit. Your circuit riders along with me. Let me go back down here and let's take a look here. Let's look and see if we have any other comments. Even though I'm in remission, Louis says, I'm still in a lot of pain from the chemo I still have to take for a long time afterward. And so Louis is in extreme pain, and we want to be in prayer for him tonight, tomorrow. Let's get the prayer chain going of our friends. As you're helping me on the circuit of the tour, would you also be in the circuit of prayer warriors for Louis? If you've been with a friend or you know of a friend who's gone through chemotherapy, you know sometimes that this cure can be very treacherous and very hurtful to the person physically. So be in prayer for Louis to rid of this pain. We're going to be in prayer, and my family, Louis, will be in prayer for you as well on this. And we will continue to be in prayer for you. All right. You're Stephen. Okay. Stephen, good to see you. Okay. I was thinking I had a friend whose last name was Ryder up from my hometown, and I knew that he had come on a couple of times and, talked with me too. Ton says, I wish I could stay and watch the rest. Subscribed. I have to watch later. I'm glad I stumbled upon this from YouTube. Thank you so much. Well, you're very kind. Thank you for the encouragement. And listen, this is also archived. If I don't finish our study about the star, I will continue it on later on this week. Ton, very, very kind. You are very kind. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for your support. You're subscribing. Very, very kind of you too. Sport, you're in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Had some relatives that lived up there, and I'm glad that you stayed away from the floods and such. Johnstown's a pretty area. Very, very nice. I went through there on the way to go over and speak in Pittsburgh and everything, and I just really love the area as well. Thank you so much. And then Teresa is reminding us all, this is archived, okay? Thank you, my friends. Thank you for joining up and helping us, as I'm very excited about this next step up as we're moving in on to the circuit, aiming to go up through the Appalachian area first of all and reach some wonderful, dear little churches there. Well, let me move on in our study here as we're going on. This one's extensive, and I really don't have time as I go through and talking with our friends during the time in the morning time, because it's so extensive. But I'm going to go on here. We see some more very, very shocking things here too. This imagery we see in Revelation chapter 12 talks about this as well. John describes this birth of a king in Revelation chapter 12 when we look at it, and it also plays into this as well. Revelation chapter 12 and verse 1 says, a great and wondrous sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant. She cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on his head. His tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to the earth. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth so that he might devour her child the moment it was born. I think it's very clear what this is talking about, trying to stop the birth of the Messiah. She gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule the nations with an iron scepter. Yeah, we're seeing that very clear. The woman we see here is Mary, the mother of Jesus. The dragon which waits to kill, that's going to be Herod. That's going to be telling us of Herod, and we see that too. John says the woman he saw was clothed in the sun. She had the moon at her feet. Now, this was something very, very powerful. Listen very carefully here as you just read this. In September of 3 BC, the mystery of John's vision comes to play here. He is describing part of this starry dance which we talked about, began in the Jewish New Year. Jupiter began that coronation I talked about. The retrograde motion kept going around, circling Regulus, okay? That star symbol. Well, the constellation which rises in the east behind Leo, the lion, is Virgo, the Virgin, known all the way through history as this one here too. When Jupiter and Regulus were first meeting, then this constellation rose clothed in the sun. John said the moon was at her feet. It was a new moon symbolically birthed at the feet of the Virgin. And if you look in the sky in the star charts, you will see that constellation has the moon at the feet of the constellation, just what is being said here in Revelation chapter 12. These could really get the Magi saying, okay, we're seeing something very, very spiritual in the starry sky. And that's not all, okay? Because these symbols, they might be talking about a birth, but we want to think about this. If these were going to say the time of conception, the beginning of a human life, would 9 months play into this at all? Well, let's take a look. In June of 2 BC, Jupiter continues on in something fascinating here. Jupiter continues the pageantry here. When we see this down here, let me get my notes here. And we're seeing that Jupiter had finished all of this coronation here, and the planet of kings traveled on through the star field toward another rendezvous, Venus. And Venus is known as the mother planet. So this conjunction is so close, so bright, that today, when you see this, okay, displayed in places today around here, that scientists who may know nothing of the Messiah are going to say this is a phenomenon, a very strong one. Jupiter almost looks like it's joining Venus. It's so bright. You could not distinguish them with the naked eye. If the astronomer had had a telescope, he could see that these planets actually are on top of one another like a figure 8. Each gives its fullness into the display like a figure 8. Both are shining with all their strengths. The most brilliant star that this astronomer would ever see. Jupiter finished this as it was setting in the west, and it's there. That evening, this from Babylonia, this Magus would have seen this spectacle, this most brightest thing, while facing toward Judea. No one could have seen this conjunction in this. If the Magi had began their travel plans at September, when they saw this sight 9 months later, this conjunction, the time of a birth, there's no doubt. They're saying, this is it. This is it. Let's go. This is the time that they go. And these experts would arrive in Jerusalem. Now, when they did and they got there, think about it. they told all of this. We saw the stars in the sky. Regulus meets Jupiter and all these things. We see the star. It's leading us over here. We see this, and then Jupiter with Venus, the mother planet, and all this stuff. And Herod's just totally thrown by this. And when we talk about him, paranoid boy, when he gets paranoid, all of Jerusalem becomes disturbed here when this star appears. But he's still confused. Herod can't understand what they know in their studies here. The Magi were probably describing this event starting in September of 3 BC, continuing through June of 2 BC. And he says, well, he wants them to go there. So now they've also got to follow this star. Go down into the area, find out where it is. To qualify, Jupiter is going to have to be ahead of the Magi now when they're turning and heading south. In December of 2 BC, as the Magi in the morning light are looking down there, the planet of kings is over Bethlehem. You have to see it right on the horizon. It's right over it. The planet of kings, Jupiter, is right over there and all. And it stops over there, all right? It, quote unquote, stops over there. Now, this is not really as odd as it sounds here, all right? Because here's the thing. When we're seeing a planet, when we're seeing them, they look like they're stopped in the sky anyway, so it's not that shocking. Well, see, here's the thing. The sky moves above the earth about half the speed of the hour hand on a common clock. And we can't see it, right? Okay, it's imperceptible at the time. So what is Matthew saying? Well, how did it stop if we're looking at that? If we're seeing the planet stop, what does Matthew mean? Because it looks like they're all stopped. Okay, well, he's talking about retrograde motion again, all right? An astronomer looking at the movement of the planets through the sky, he doesn't look at it in the time of minutes, but he's looking in the time of weeks, days. And on the scale of time, that's what Jupiter did. In the scale of time, it stopped. December 25th of 2 BC, it's over into a retrograde motion in here, and it's reaching a full stop in its travel through the fixed stars. Magi, going from Jerusalem, are moving in the little town of Bethlehem. And they're moving over here in December. I'm not saying that it has anything to do with the December 25th. It's the stars in the sky moving about in here. Wonderful, wonderful truth here as we take a look at this. And all of these stars moving about. And that's one study about what was going on in the sky during the birth of Christ. A very, very striking thing here that we see over the 9 months, the retrograde motion. Wonderful, wonderful truths here too. And so that gives us an idea of that, all right? And that's an explanation which is a very, very complicated one, but also tells us the truth of what was going on and how the Magi, as I believe somebody had asked, what did the Magi see? What were the prophecies there too? And that's also for you to see. We're going to be talking more about who is Anna whenever we take a look in the teaching of the Advent calendar. What does Simeon do? Why does Simeon stop? What is he being told? Where does Herod play into this, and what happens out of this? And who are the shepherds, and why would it be significant that the shepherds are the first one? And then let's talk about angels, and what's this about with the host of angels? And all those things we'll be taking through the Advent calendar as we go down through the passages here, all right? So we're taking a look at that on there, okay? Now, let me see. I'm going to do this right now without going into more of the Advent in this time. If you've joined us, then what I want to do is share in this mini marathon. I'll be finishing up in 20 minutes. And I thank you for joining. When we're talking about, let's go back to our heaven study and then looking at the strength of what we're seeing here in studying about heaven, studying about the angels of heaven and such. And when we're taking a look at what God says in the future of heaven and what God promises us, when we're looking at the scripture, what does the Bible say about this? And in this, as we're here, I'm also reminding you, if you'd like to help us, go to theheaventour.com, theheaventour.com, and you can go on in and you can take a look and you can see that our ministry is growing, and we could use your help as I start my next circuit beginning in 2024. The site you can go on and give electronically through your debit or credit card, and it is a tax-deductible gift. And we want to thank you so much. We are a 501c3. You can do that now as I'm talking here on here. Now, the questions that we have, we've gone through and we keep taking a look at the different letters in our Bible encyclopedia. We've gone through A and angels, and we have also talked about C, the comfort we find in the Lord and the confidence, and moving on through and just seeing all of these different letters within our Bible encyclopedia, helping giving us some different truths and such when we take a look at this. C under Christ and such. And then I want you to see this. Under F, if you are writing in your Bible encyclopedia, when we go to heaven, what is this about seeing the face of God? We're going to be able to see the face of God? Does the Bible say this? What is that supposed to mean? Where's the Bible say this? Okay, so under F, I want you to put the face of God in heaven. Okay, so the first thing you want to remember is Exodus chapter 33 and verse 20 says, no man here on earth can see the face of God. Well, why is that? Because we're sinful. We can't see God's glory. That is keeping us. We would be totally annihilated by this. We don't have the right to see His holiness because we're not holy. Even in the vision in Isaiah chapter 6, when you see that Isaiah is seeing this vision of God in the throne, he's absolutely terrified. I'm going to die. I'm an unclean man with unclean lips. And in there, he's assured in this vision, this is going to be, because he is giving a vision of God on the throne. Didn't necessarily say he saw His face. He saw God on the throne, but you can't see them. 1 John 4:12 even tells us this. No man has seen God at any time. We haven't been able to see God the Father in this. And then, of course, it is also repeated in 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 16. This is one. God is an unapproachable light. And again, it repeats it. No man has seen Him. 1 Timothy 6:16. Well, wait a minute. I thought you said we're going to see the face of God. Well, follow me now when we start looking at this. We can't see Him because He cannot see wickedness. Habakkuk chapter 1 and verse 13. It's talking about the holiness of God, and God cannot see wickedness in this. And yet, we did see God when we saw Jesus. I'm talking about mankind. John chapter 1 and verse 14. Remember this? We beheld Jesus. He tabernacled among us. We were seeing God in the flesh. Think about this. Luke 19:10. Jesus Christ came to seek and to save the lost. He came down in fulfillment of God's love for us, Christ dying for us, Romans chapter 5 and verse 8. We beheld His glory, John 1:14, as of the glory of God the Father Himself. In seeing God, we are seeing Jesus as God. Philip says, oh, show us the Father, it'll be good for us. And Jesus says, you're asking to see the Father. When you see me, you've seen the Father, Philip. How long have you been with me? And you say you haven't seen God? So Jesus directly is telling him this as well. Matthew 5:8 then tells you something. Jesus Himself says something which flips everybody upside down. Blessed are the pure in heart, Matthew chapter 5 and verse 8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Now, how's that going to happen? Well, we can take a look at it here. Revelation chapter 22. We've talked about this. Verse 3, servants shall serve Him. And then it says in verse 4, His servants will serve Him, and they shall see His face. What happens? We've been changed. We've received an incorruptible body, 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 53 through 57. The body is incorruptible. There's no more curse on us, Revelation 22:3. We are clean before the Lord. We have an eternal body, it says in that same passage, immortal. See, we were dishonor, we were buried in dishonor, we're raised in glory. Now we have a glorious presentation before the Lord. And one of the benefits of the glory is we're going to see God face to face in here. Wonderful. And when we see this because we have seen Jesus. Mankind has seen Jesus. John 10:30, I and the Father are one, as Jesus has said, and we're going to enjoy this face to face. When it says in Matthew 5:8, Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. The construction of the Greek is a continual promise. You will continually, a future continuation. You will continually see God face to face. Now somebody says, I thought God is a spirit. That's true. John chapter 4, God is a spirit, all right? So how are we going to see him? Well, it's very easy. How do we know that we see God in a tangible way? Through Jesus Christ. Will it be in heaven, as there is, Revelation chapter 1, the appearance of the Holy Spirit, also in Revelation chapter 4, Revelation chapter 22, Jesus himself, Revelation chapter 1, Revelation chapter 5, seen all the way through, Revelation chapter 19, 20, and on all this, and God the Father. You're seeing in Revelation chapter 6, for example, on there. So the Trinity is in heaven. So how is it manifest? Well, the best we can tell you is, if nothing else, we're seeing God when we see Jesus face to face. We're seeing him, responding to him. And then the mysteries of God stop right there. In what other way will we see it? And then some, because we're enjoying the Trinity in heaven? Well, then I say this. We know right now we'll at least see tangibly God because we're seeing Jesus. And here's the wild thing about that. It tells us we shall see him as he is, 1 John chapter 3 and verse 2. We're not going to see him as the meek lamb, as just the teacher, as even the miracle worker or the crucified Christ. Oh, he'll bear the wounds of honor. We'll see him as he is, the conquering one, the King of kings, the Lord of lords. And here's what else it says. We shall be like him. Now that stretches the human mind as far as it can go. What does that mean? We can only take a guess. We can only just guess in that. It's just absolutely stunning. What we will be like. People say, will we fly? Will we have conveyances of cars or something like that? The Bible doesn't say. But we do know this. We're not limited in the ways that we are limited here on earth, because it says in Revelation 21:5, all things are new. I make all things new. So we will be able to see a wonderful, new, unprecedented existence. I've had it about once a week, have people that say, listen, it doesn't matter what you say, the idea of eternity absolutely terrifies me. I am scared of that. Yes, grasping this in the same way that we do today, in our limited mind, how can I grasp? And any more than I can try to calculate the number of atoms in the Pacific Ocean. I can't do it. It makes me dizzy just to think about that. But I do know, in the mind that we have, in the incorruptible mind that will be given to us, we will be able to understand. We're on a learning curve. We're learning from the Lord. We do see that in the scriptures. All things, Ephesians 1:10, brought together under Christ. We will know that. But see, if we have an incorruptible mind, the corruption of limited thinking, of trivia, of anger, of disagreements, of depression, those are all gone. Our minds are more cleansed in that and more receptible to that. Just as we will have bodies that will not be limited by fatigue or the need for sleep. What will happen to our minds? Well, we're just being given those new truths as we take a look at it in the scriptures to grasp these things. And I'll remind you that there is no curse. So the curse of being panicked by forever is gone. In what way? Well, I can only give you the principles here. 2 Peter 3:8. The new heaven right now is not the same as earthly time, heavenly time. And also this time will be unprecedented. In its presentation, we've never experienced this dimension. We'll be in a whole new dimension, which is very exciting, okay? And even now, my mom, my dad, my oldest brother, they're all in this dimension, which will then be brought over into a whole new presentation along with the new heaven surrounding the new earth, And so there's no need for us to be in great grief on this or in anxiety, because in Psalm 16, verse 11, it says, in your presence, Lord, is fullness of joy. We'll be satisfied. Psalm 17, verse 15, we will be completely satisfied. Well, I'm going to conclude here if there are no more questions here. We're coming up on 7 o'clock, but if there are some questions, let me look down here, and if there are those that might have some questions, I want to thank you so much in taking a look, and we have a whole group of tour guides with us helping me out, And in this, and in great anticipation, I'm looking, and I'm going to thank the ones that are here that are making this possible in our initial steps here. Thank you to Timothy Crane, Stephen Brubaker, Dwayne Mitchell, Shannon Bradford, Karen Spearman, Mary Flores, God bless you, Douglas Kleckner, Jessica Gibson, John Fultz, Louis Wasso, Lindsay Kuzminski, George Gibson, Fern Bailey, and William Mayhew. All of you giving so very kindly to this and what we're doing. This means a lot. And in your giving, you are also receiving a tax-deductible gift here. You are receiving that credit. We will send you a receipt on this. And also, you're going to know that you're going to be helping as I'm going and ministering to these dear friends, these dear people. And if it ends up that you help me get into a conference, a church, a week, a camp, I'm trying even to set up some different conferences as well in some areas, and that's going to take some expense on this circuit. But you're making this possible in these ways. We thank you so much. And Louis, thank you for the encouragement and all of this. It's just that we're holding one another up, and as God has instructed me to do these things, I'm just asking you, if this is not to happen, it's like when we had our first fundraising back, 2 years ago now? And I told the friends, please don't panic if we don't raise enough money. I'll get a job. And I did. And the first time I retired from teaching, really felt the Lord moving on, and I needed time to invest into this. But we couldn't, raise the money. So I picked up an evening job at UPS and worked over. And people were like, man, you got your PhD and you had 30 years and you're working at UPS. Listen, it doesn't matter. There's no pride here. I'm thinking of those people that are around the country that just need to hear the word and want just the teaching of heaven and being able to be leaders themselves and everything. Hey, listen, I'd go back to work for UPS. And if this doesn't work and if things aren't working out in this, if the Lord should close this door, he's going to open up another one, and I'm willing to do that. But right now it looks like I'm very encouraged by this. And thank you. And thank you so much that as we go along, we're just just excited about this. Well, I'm going to go. You all need to get a chance to be with your families and just enjoy your time together tonight. And God bless you. Boy, I do appreciate you all. Looking forward, as the Lord would allow, tomorrow we're going to be together in the morning time at 8:30 on TikTok, if you're able to go into TikTok, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we'll be back here at 9:30 in the morning here on YouTube. And I'm really, really so excited about being with you too. And then all of this on how the Lord has taken through us. This indeed is a holiday time for me right now, just being with you all. Teresa, thank you so much. Johnny, thank you for your moderating word. That's indeed a gift. It's a wonderful gift that you're giving and volunteer. I want you to know, friends, they've never asked for a penny. They've never asked for a thing. They do this out of the goodness of their heart, and God's going to bless them so greatly. And for all of you to take time tonight to be on here, that means so much. And so, even if you were not able to come on here and ask a question and you're watching, I want to thank you. You're watching this later on. God bless you. Appreciate it so much. I hope that this has been a help to you. God bless you. Take care. And Lord willing, we will talk tomorrow. Take care. Thank you again.